At the black underground market of Qingqing, folks are attempting to sell some not-so-legal things. But to one specific peddler, the customer makes the statement that he has already sold a substantial amount of his vital body parts during the last 6 months. At this pace, he won't be around more than a few days. But the seller assures it is okay because, in order to save his terminally ill sister, he would do anything. And because he is that determined, the boss also decides to just proceed and take everything. After the surgery, the man is hardly walking. But when he has ensured that no one is tailing him, he immediately starts his regeneration. Now he has 30,000 yuan remaining, the money he initially had. He thinks it should be enough to pay for the job change ceremony. No sick sister or terminally ill mother is there. People should just refrain from believing such fabricated falsehoods. His name is Yang Lin, and he is a transmigrator, a common pure orphan who doesn't have any such thing as an ill sister in this world. But nevertheless, it was extremely difficult for him to live here until he found his special power. Regardless of how severely his body is damaged, he can recover normally within minutes, and missing organs or limbs can grow back. He employed his regenerative power to sell off his own body parts so that he could save up 100,000 yuan just to pay for the costly job change ceremony. Since only with the job change ceremony and activating his ability can he become stronger. That's the only way in which he can survive in this overwhelmingly perilous world and safeguard the people he cares about. And today is the day of the job change ceremony. The others all point out the fact that Yang comes from a very poor family, so why on earth is he taking part in the job change ceremony? He goes straight to teacher Wang and informs her that if he wanted to attend, he had no other option but to take out a job change loan. But once again, the rest caution that if he does have a worthless job, then he'll be spending the rest of his life doing nothing but working to pay back that loan. But since the loan is already borrowed, the teacher makes up her mind and asks Yang to quickly go inside, as the ceremony is ready to start. Many people are present here for the ceremony. Considering Matt Damon of Class 5, they also mentioned that his family is not rich either, and thus they have some concerns. After having spent so much money on fees, which actually made their hearts bleed, if a poor boy like him gets a life skill job, then that would mean the end of everything. As soon as Matt Damon is on the stage, he is instructed to place his hand on the platform and relax by the principal. As soon as he does that, he receives an A-rank poultry breeder job, a life skill job. The others are also watching all this nervously, remarking how now he is going to spend his life around chickens and ducks. The main asks Matt Damon not to get dejected just because it is a life skill profession. Only worthless people get worthless professions. Then a girl, Keira Knightley, enters, and the audience begins to go wild. When she touches her hand on the platform, this gigantic phoenix-like bird emerges in a blazing display of strength. The principal too is stunned, exclaiming that this is an SSS-Rank fire wizard. He is relieved that finally Qingqing Academy can hold its head up high once more. The people in the crowd are also stunned, further because now many of them are condemned to not even be deserving of being admired by her from afar. Yang also considers how even an SSS-level fire mage cannot resist 1,000, and that means this girl truly has some good fortune. The headmaster informs Keira that she has triggered an SSS-Rank class. This is a big enough deal for the school that they will need to determine her training plan in the future. Then it is Yang Lin's turn. Others quickly remark on how he is that scholarship student and ask why he must be here. The others inform them that he got a job change loan. As Yang goes by Keira, he considers that he has chosen not to be a background character to that little girl anymore. When his hand is set on the platform, he considers that now is the time. It's not about staying alive in this world. It's about going against fate and altering destiny. Everything is up for grabs with the next move. All of a sudden, a blue dragon aura shoots up, covering Yang totally and sending everyone into shock. The principal cannot help but wonder that another anomaly has manifested, one after another. Keira also asks herself if Yang Lin will receive an SSS-level position. The others are equally shocked, wondering how unbelievably lucky this guy is. A loser student who borrowed money to switch jobs and landed an SSS-level class. It's astonishing. The principal makes an announcement that Yang Lin has received a combat position, an SSS-grade Forbidden Mage. He brags that today, Qingqing Academy boasts about him and the success that he will achieve in the future. But then, all of a sudden, he remembers Yang technically received a Forbidden Mage. The principal's face immediately changes to fear as he understands the reality. Yang Lin has awakened as an SSS-grade Curse Mage. Everyone immediately bursts into laughter, completely losing it at the revelation. They've all heard the stories, no Forbidden Mage has ever lived past 25. It's a class where one must consume their own life force to cast spells. Due to their short lifespan, Forbidden Mages are considered a trash job. Yang Lin just took out a job change loan and now he's going to die young. It's too pitiful for them to bear, and they just continue to laugh at his colossal bad luck. They all think for sure Yang is finished. Most were already thinking that a bad student like him should never have attempted to switch jobs in the first place. Even Keira Knightley, as she's exiting, thinks it's a shame. Yang Lin obviously overhears all the laughter and the jeers from the crowd. Individuals discussing how he literally exchanged his life for talent. Others joke that this profession is what fits him best. Some refer to him as a fleeting specter. Others comment that he plummeted from heaven to hell in a moment. Others still ridicule him for attempting to alter his fate, laughing so intensely they assert it could be fatal. A bad student like him always had a worthless existence, says one. The most useless SSS rank ever. The principal still considers Yang a good kid, but sadly even he has to admit a forbidden mage is not something to be proud of. Yang then asks the principal if it's really true that forbidden mages can't live past 25. The principal tries to comfort him, saying, "Don't be too pessimistic. As the saying goes, it's up to the individual. It is better to burn brightly for a brief period than to live a life of mediocrity." Yang thanks the principal for reassurance and responds that even if he lives to be but 25, he will burn brightly and glorify the academy. The principal requests Yang to follow him so they can start preparing a special training program for him and Keira Knightley. Yang thanks the principal once again, but in his mind, he is the one laughing. After all, forbidden mages may have short lives, but that has nothing to do with his immortal body. Today has been very exhausting for Yang, so he decides to hurry home and get some good sleep. But just then, Keira Knightley approaches him and asks him to join her team, especially because the more a forbidden mage fights, the faster they die. She makes it clear that she's not being malicious. She just doesn't want him to die too quickly since they are classmates. Yang appreciates the concern, but for now, he simply declines. As Keira walks away, she says it is a waste of good counsel on a recalcitrant ghost and tells Yang to just do whatever he pleases. Yang is left speechless. There is nothing he can do about it. Nevertheless, he finds the whole episode quite bizarre. Then, a punks group obstructs his path. They immediately recognize him as the SSS level job holder, Yang Lin. All the students in the school are aware that Keira Knightley is one of the G family, and thus they dislike the notion of some person like Yang who rose to fame merely by acquiring a forbidden mage position getting close to her. Yang finds himself thinking about how much hassle women can be. He never anticipated that Keira Knightley would cause so much hassle with only 2 sentences. He informs the punks that he only wants to go home and nothing more, but they just laugh and mock him for saying his home is some little 10 square meter hut. As Yang Lin now works at an SSS level, one of the punks insists that Yang address him as dad and promises to arrange a security job for him at the G group later. They simply laugh, joking that if he lands a security job at the G group, he should begin bowing to G Shane. One of them jokes that Yang can start working there tomorrow, and when he gets some money, he can even purchase incense for his dead relatives from the orphanage. They all have an uncontrollable laugh thinking of an orphan having a family. They then tell him to bow down in a hurry, with one of them saying that his family probably was not qualified. That is why they all died now. Not knowing the impact their words are leaving, they continue insulting him, while Yang becomes more and more angry. He wishes he could burn everything to ashes. Yang opens his eyes, looking in anger, and lifts his hand and informs them, "This is all that you brought about." The others immediately freak out. They never thought Yang would actually cast a forbidden spell. That would be suicide. But Yang doesn't care. He can't stand the punks bad-mouthing his deceased family. They all jump back as he casts the spell. They are frightened, and they shout that Yang has lost his mind. Why on earth would he cast a ban spell? Yang simply shouts after them, saying they should return so he can repeat it. But they all flee. To them, Yang has obviously lost it. He does not care about his life anymore, and they do not want to have anything to do with someone who has lost their mind. Even Yang did not think that they would be such a joke. One spell, and they all scurried away in terror. But to use just one of those spells has done severe harm to Yang's body. He can feel everything. From a high point over the area, Keira Knightley observes the activity and mutters to herself about how Yang would risk his life over the matter of a few insults. A person like that, even with an SSS rank job, will never survive. Now, she thinks Yang Lin is not even worthy of standing by her side. At home, Yang finally relaxes. Glancing at his system window, he knows that by offering up various portions of his body, he can call forth various types of magic attacks. For instance, offering up a bladder can call the water and thunder, and offering up a heart can call the life-taking purple thunder. If he wishes to call the final chaos divine thunder, it would essentially be signing his own death sentence. Suddenly his head begins to ache, a byproduct of his body regeneration malfunctioning. Exceedingly fatigued, Yang collapses and sleeps. Shane, however, discusses avenging himself with someone. He desires Yang to be brought down and at once commands someone to be sent after him. But the person standing in front of Shane reminds him of the lessons his father taught him. The it is extremely dangerous to kill an SSS-level prohibited mage and does not help them whatsoever. The individual describes Young as being crazy enough to put his life on the line by casting a prohibited spell after taking some slurs. Moreover, he's just a poor kid, whereas the G family has more than enough means. He instructs Shane to learn how to apply his strongest asset, wealth and influence, to take advantage of his enemies' soft spots. The following day at Qingqing Academy, a brightly colored poster warmly invites all teachers and students from other schools to join the coming trial exam. Yang, still drowsy, comes to school. Others notice him at once, particularly since there have been whispers about him becoming a taboo mage and even educating Shane from the G family. Abruptly, someone yells out to Yang. He wishes Yang a good morning with a loud voice and asks him to have breakfast, telling him it's a kind act since Yang most likely hasn't eaten yet. Yang, however, is suspicious that Shane is attempting to poison him because he was unable to defeat him yesterday. Shane, however, assures him that he would never poison him. Rather, he had brought breakfast to thank him. Yang is not able to conceive of a reason why Shane would want to thank him for something. Shane tells him that Yang's arrival struck him like a bolt of lightning. It made him realize that he had been living his life in a haze. Still wary, Yang tells him to cut the crap. What does he really want? Shane then kneels and tells him that he wants to admit Yang as his big brother. Shocked, Yang wants to know if Shane got hit too hard yesterday or something. But Shane assures him that he is dead serious. Once Yang beat him up, he reflected at length and figured that if he is to improve, he needs a good role model. Yang, pretending, states that if it is so, then Shane also needs to pay tuition. Shane happily agrees. Then he requests his big brother's card number so he can wire the money immediately. Yang provides him the number and instructs him to send 2 million as his initial tuition fee. Shane is obviously taken aback by the figure, so Yang queries whether it costs too much. But Shane quickly assures him that it doesn't. He will make his father wire the money immediately. It is just at this moment that it is announced that the portal to the new player's dungeon is now open. The examination is about to start and hopefully all candidates from different schools perform excellently. All the candidates come together, wishing for a win. Their teachers notice the two in front and inquire from the Qingqing Academy principal if those are the pupils with SSS-level employment. They're obviously standing out, but that irritates the principal. He instructed them to remain low-key. Even getting an SSS-level position would have been sufficient, but these children are bound to flaunt their status. They never listen. Nevertheless, he chuckles. He is secretly proud deep within him. He only pretends to be annoyed to get the other schools envious. When the visitors bid farewell, they warn the principal not to get too arrogant. And then the announcement is made. All of the candidates can now start entering the dungeon. Kira Knightley again asks to partner with Young, but once more, he declines politely, saying he does not need any help. Kira is shocked at how arrogant he is, but she thinks perhaps he just wants to die young. And if that happens, no one can do anything to prevent it. Young enters the portal in a hurry. After he arrives, he observes his surroundings and finds himself alone. He questions if it was a random teleportation. Then, out of nowhere, an outrageous animal appears. One that Young just thinks of as a little cat. Nevertheless, it looks good to try his skills on. With a single hit, he defeats the level 1 leopard cat, which gives him 10 XP. Getting just 10 XP after that huge buildup is somewhat of a letdown. It has him questioning whether it was all worth losing one of his kidneys. If he's only getting 10 XP for each kill, then he's going to have to kill hundreds of these to even get level 2. This is going to take way too long, so he's going to have to plan better. A little while later, Young is being chased by a lot of roving beasts, and he's very excited, even if he is currently fleeing from them. This wave should provide him with a lot of experience, so he stops at once and decides to try out his just learned abilities with them. The forbidden spell he now casts is Burning Reincarnation, which engulfs him and the whole environment in a huge aura. Even Young thinks that the spell is frightening. His strength, agility, and spirit are all doubled. Even a level 10 monster wouldn't likely be able to withstand the power of his world-ending lightning in the burning reincarnation state. With rapid, ongoing attacks along the wave, he continues to defeat increasing numbers of monsters. They don't even know they've been struck. He's so fast that he clears entire waves with a single swipe. But it's incredibly exhausting to his body. Within a mere 5 minutes, he's already experiencing it. Not willing to expose his immortal body, he opts to cancel Burning Reincarnation after roughly a minute so that he might not reveal too much. He then uses Immortal Reverse Life and forfeits his hand. Putting down the other hand on the floor, he draws a magical circle from which electricity starts to flow out. It is World Ender Extreme Thunder. Everything in his surroundings is destroyed: gray wolves, 30 XP, level 5 two-headed snakes, 50 XP, level 6 iron scorpions, 60 XP, level 6 centaurs, 60 XP, and even level 2 killer bees, hardly 20 XP. But the concentration of monsters is so enormous that unexpectedly his system alerts him to a level boost. This wave is incredible for Young. He goes straight up to level 3 and gets a new forbidden spell unlocked. Infernal Fire, Burnt Sky. Then Keira Knightley also comes through there later. She is in shock at what she's seeing. So many monsters reduced to charcoal. She can't think of anything that would have made something happen like this. Then she sees a fire still smoldering nearby. She knows it instantly as Infernal Fire. But the odd part is, there aren't any other fire element professions throughout all of Qingqing save for hers. She has no concept as to how some such large fire element fluctuation would suddenly manifest. After sitting around it for a while, considering, she sees a gigantic pillar of smoke in the distance. It appears man-made. The fire elemental fluctuation is so intense it may even be greater than hers. That can only happen with one explanation. Xinjiang is a place of secret abilities. Keira Knightley vows that she will discover the person responsible for this. A bit ahead, Young sits by a campfire broiling heaps of great meat. He's savoring the flesh of a three-eyed magic pig. It's just too delicious. He expended too much energy earlier and must reload. The meat is just too delectable. After having his fill, Young makes a decision to go out into a far-off region to grind more monsters. But then, a voice comes from behind, querying what he is doing there. It's Keira Knightley. Meeting her was not what Young desired. This is inconvenient. He can't have her find out about his secret. Young informs her that he was roasting something to eat. Keira reminds him again that she already explained to him the forbidden mage job is not for solo grinding. She then walks past him, telling him it's too late for regrets now and following her is pointless. She is too busy to team up. She has things to do, so she just wants to leave him alone. But Young wasn't tailing her. She was the one tailing him. Nevertheless, Young says nothing beyond a plain, okay. Nevertheless, he fails to grasp the reasoning behind what she says. Whether this lady has a few screws loose in the head is something he questions. And then Keira Knightley halts and explains that she has to ask Young something. She wants to know whether anyone else had walked by here. She also states that the individual is actually very powerful, has fire elemental magic, and is very likely to be the individual who was wielding infernal fire. Young quickly pretends that he doesn't know anything, acting as if he's never heard of infernal fire. Yet he claims that he did see someone, a very good-looking man, who headed in a particular direction. He even gestures in the direction. He does this because he just can't let this pestilential woman hang on to him. It appears that he can't even employ Infernal Fire's prohibited spell anymore without calling attention to himself. As Keira Knightley begins to follow the way he gestured, she laments that everything is Yang's fault. Otherwise, she might have certainly caught up with the powerful individual employing Infernal Fire. But then out of the blue, after hearing a commotion, Keira glances up to notice a huge monster coming directly her way. It is an 8th level dragon blood monster. Keira instantly dodges, but she doesn't know why or how such a high-level monster is in this starting dungeon. Most would have no hope against it, let alone someone like Young. She begins to think about where he could be right now, believing the coward must already have run far away. Nevertheless, she immediately fires barrage after barrage of fireballs at the monster. However, the creature easily slaps the magic aside, leaving Keira in grave danger. She continues to toss fire, intent on combat with the monster until her own death. But regardless of the number of fireballs she throws, the monster continues to deflect them and even bounces a few back at her, which completely surprises her. After being struck directly, she's knocked off to the ground. The monster starts to advance towards her. She has to concede she was too overconfident. In this so-called beginner dungeon, an 8th level dragon blood beast is invincible for anyone. She's weary, on the ground, thinking it too humiliating to die here in this way. Then, out of nowhere, someone yells, "Have some manners." The creature is consumed by flames at once. Keira knows it, hellfire, and watches with shock as the spell obliterates the 8th level dragon blood beast in a fraction of a second. She quickly glances up at the face of the person who just saved her. She doesn't recognize him, so she just thanks the classmate and requests his name. We already know that it's Yong, but he comes disguised so he can hide his identity. He informs her that his name is Ling Yong. It is a little confusing, but perhaps he just wishes her to believe that he's another person. Same name, just spelled backwards. On hearing the name, Keira immediately inquires him of which school he's from. Because he rescued her, she wants to thank him in earnest. But Young doesn't want thanks from this stupid woman, so he merely tells her that there's no need. He was merely passing by. Keira calls out to him, requesting him to please wait. Young instructs her not to follow him because the demonic beasts in front are too powerful. It's not a location for someone like Kara to enter. He also tells her that she should change her clothes first. She instantly knows why he told her that and is a little embarrassed. Nevertheless, she shouts to Young, stating that she will catch up to him eventually and stand by his side one day. She then quickly exits the vicinity, bouncing from tree to tree, Naruto style. Having gotten rather far, Young comes to a halt. He now believes that she no longer is tailing him. That idiot woman is a serious nuisance. She took up a lot of his time, and he must now level up sooner. Then a system message appears. He looks at it and finds a new forbidden spell. It calls for the forfeiture of 2 years from his life, but in exchange, it provides immunity to one deadly attack. Being an illegal spellcaster is really a fleeting career. Each spell takes away part of the user's life, but for Young, this spell is a lifesaver. With it, he can stay alive even from a death blow such as being pierced through the heart from the back. In addition to this, if ever he needs to use a forbidden magic that costs his heart or even his head, he'll never suffer from the loss. This is purely incredible. Now he can farm and grind monsters without any obstructions. No one is able to hinder his level up. So crazy, he even begins laughing like a maniac. 3 days pass by, and it is the final day of the test. The trial is going to come to an end shortly. People in the audience discuss amongst themselves, stating that they'd be content if their children are able to level up to level 8. Principals of the different academies sit together and explain that, even if one school has 2 SSS class students, it won't be significant if their levels are not high enough. At times, level is more important than class. The only means of flaunting before Xinjiang is to shatter the current record of the highest level in the secret world, which is level 11, and which has yet to be beaten. They wonder if this time, finally, that record will be beaten. The principal of Xinjiang Academy is still optimistic. He is sure his pupils can do it. Then suddenly another man comes along and sees how much enjoyment the principals are getting. He asks if he, too, can participate. His name is Leon. The principals welcome him and explain that they've heard a lot about him. Leon is the best astrologer in the city, and it's a privilege to have him visit. But Leon simply laughs and tells them they're being too complimentary. He has come to visit his daughter, Nini. He inquires from the principal whether Nini has been misbehaving. The principal comments on how much love Mr. Leon has for his daughter, then confesses that Nini is the pride of the city academy. Now they see someone coming out of the portal. But hold on, the time limit has not expired yet. Why would a person leave early? Perhaps they're hurt? The very next moment, Kara Knightley comes out. She looks at her dad and asks herself why he's there. Leon right away inquires about what level she got, and the principal asks why she's exiting early before the time has expired. Nini, Kara, then lets out the surprise that she already got to level 12, hence why she exited early. They are all shocked. That high a level? The record is shattered. As the principal expected, a fire element mage has crushed the last level record effortlessly. He even begins to laugh with pride. Leon does comment that his daughter is actually stubborn. Had she waited until the time's up, she could have even gotten to level 13. But Kara claims it was too boring in there. It was taking ages just to locate a level 10 demonic beast, and even then, the experience points that could be gained by killing it was deceptively low. But secretly, she confesses the true reason she went out early, and that was to locate Young. She won't let him get away from her this time. Inside the portal, amidst stacks of charcoal that were once monsters, Young just sneezes suddenly. Unusual. This location is not cold, yet he is sneezing. He wonders, perhaps someone is gossiping about me. There are no more demonic beasts in the level 10 zone. Young must have killed them too soon. Now, if he wants to continue grinding, he would need to expand his searching area. To do so, he sets out to experiment with a just-learned forbidden magic called Sudden Dance. This illicit spell is such that the user has to offer an organ, depending on its value, in order to get a tremendous agility increase. The highest effect gives the user 10 times their natural agility and lasts an hour. Young sacrifices a kidney and gets instant 10x agility. Even a level 50 assassin would not be as scary fast. He's excited. With this new speed, he starts dashing across the land like thunder, trying out his movement and searching for targets. Instantly, he sees 3-headed cyclone mantises and decides to have all of them for himself. To end them in a hurry, he gives up his bladder and uses the forbidden spell World-Destroying Raging Thunder, annihilating them instantaneously. Outside the portal, more students start coming out. Others are obviously relieved to be out. They almost died in there. Many of them are sobbing, frightened by what they went through. Kara Knightley stands outside the portal, befuddled and frustrated that Young still has not emerged. With 5 minutes remaining in the test, everyone is instructed to get back to their assigned school areas as the trial is about to end. It seems Keira Knightley is going to be this year's highest level achiever. The other school principals can't help but concede that old Gao is very fortunate. His academy received 2 SSS class students this year. Yet he is wondering where the second one is. With only 3 minutes left, Keira is thinking perhaps she missed Young somehow. But that doesn't make sense. She has waited the whole time. Next, one person comes out of the portal. His outline resembles a familiar person, too familiar. Keira thinks it has to be him. But when the person moves forward, it is the Young she doesn't quite like. The one she now considers a coward. He remarks nonchalantly that since time's up, he came out. He inquires about a problem. But Keira is really disappointed. She can't believe it ended up being him. She tells him not to even say anything to her and just leave her alone. Young just thinks this girl is even crazier than ever. It's not like I was dying to talk to you anyway. He grumbles to himself. Then Principal Gao approaches Young, seeing that he has finally come out of the portal. What level are you at? The headmaster inquires. Young responds, level 16. Everyone nearby instantly stops dead in their tracks, stunned. Did they just hear that correctly? Level 16? That's totally crazy. It's virtually impossible. The last top record level achieved in this novice secret world was just level 11. And this is only a beginner's exam. How did one manage to become level 16? But before long, it is absolutely certain to all that this fellow is really level 16. It takes 12,000 experience points to level from 1 to level 16. The strongest demonic beast within the rookie secret realm is level 10, and killing one yields 100 XP. That is, Young killed 1,200 level 10 demonic beasts. This is something that none of them even consider to be possible. But Principal Gao just smiles and informs Young that he did a magnificent job and that Qingcheng Academy is proud of him. Even Leon remarks on how impressive he is. But Keira instantly waves it off, informing everyone that Young is a forbidden spellcaster. If he continues to use forbidden spells without any regard for the consequences, naturally he would level up quickly. When the other principals find out he's a forbidden spellcaster, they too easily grasp how he was able to level up to level 16. Now, everyone is whispering about how insane this guy is, because leveling up with forbidden spells in a rookie secret realm isn't something anybody with any sense would do. There are other prohibited spellcasters who don't even survive to age 25. With this pace, this guy may not even make it to 20. It's hilarious in their opinion, offering his life in exchange for celebrity. It's stupid behavior. But one of the instructors stands up and says they shouldn't be making fun of him. He lived just so they could look up to him, so perhaps they should allow him to bask in that glory for a couple of days at least. The other principals then go up to Gao and ask why he let this occur. One even questions whether Yang was coerced into doing this, stating that perhaps the principal used him for the reputation of the academy. But Principal Gao dispels that at once. He strongly says that, as an educator, he would never make a jest of his students' lives. Yang steps forward as well, asserting that no one coerced him into doing anything. He took this path by himself. He had a poor family background, always being condescended to. Now, after finally getting the opportunity to climb up, he won't give up. Even if he exhausts himself at his best time, he won't regret it. He wants the whole country to know he can do it. Leon applauds and cheers Yang's words, stating they are evidence that he has genuine ambition. Whether people say anything or not, Yang is the top-level student within this novice secret world. Without a doubt, he is number 1. Leon gives Yang his card and explains that he is Keira Knightley's father, and if Yang ever finds himself in need in the future, he can call on him. But Keira is not pleased about this. She explains that no one is going to say that Yang is the first until another fellow named Ling Yang emerges. His level will be no lower than Yang's. This stimulates Leon's interest. He inquires about this Ling Yang fellow, but Principal Gao replies that he doesn't know anyone by the name. He is curious to know if this individual is from another academy. The representatives of the other academy also respond that they have no idea if anyone by that name exists. Yet Keira is still convinced that Ling Yang is an exceptional genius. When he emerges, all will be explained. Yang, on the other hand, is unable to fathom how this madwoman continues to cause more and more headaches. Because even after waiting as long as they are, that fellow isn't walking out. He is Ling Yang. Yang just says goodbye to all of them, explaining that he will be going home now. Leon bids him a safe journey, and Principal Gao tells him to sleep well. The official test is only 3 days away, which Yang already realizes. Before long, the time runs out, and the test comes officially to a close. Keira glances over at the portal and asks herself, where could Ling Yang have gone? She thinks perhaps he managed to get away while she was engrossed in conversation with Yang Ling. Once again, she blames it all on Yang Ling. Leon attempts to console his daughter, but Kara persists that he must trust her. That Ling Yong truly is a genius, a person who even rescued her. Leon informs her that he does have trust in her and knows she had to have left the trial prematurely just to wait for him. If that's the case, then it certainly is bizarre. He gives an alternative. Maybe Yong Ling and Ling Yong are one and the same, though Kara definitely claims otherwise. She tells her that the two are as different as night and day. Of them, one panicked and fled when confronted by the blood dragon, while the other, Ling Yong, was skilled in fire elemental magic. As far as she is concerned, Yong Ling could never do what Ling Yong accomplished. Leon hears that and decides to follow his daughter's opinion. When resting, Yong asks himself who could be speaking ill of him behind his back and suspects that it is that pesky woman once more. Then, out of the blue, someone knocks on his door. He is strange about it. Who would visit him at this time? When he opens the door, he inquires the man before him as to whom he is searching for. The man answers that he was searching for Yong and that he has finally managed to find him. He then identifies himself as being the manager of the city's entire liquid limited company and his surname is Wong. Manager Wong tells that he overheard Yong successfully switch career and even set the record for the highest level in Qin Cheng's rookie secret realm test. He tells he came here to invite Yong to be a spokesperson of the company's product, guaranteeing him that the reward would not be small, at least a three-figure sum. Then he explains that the sum is actually 3 million. The figure shocks Yong. He looks at the product, Order Liquid, which is a formula purported to feed the brain and stimulate regrowing of cells. Consuming it is said to make a person a few years younger. Yong ponders to himself that, for so much money, individuals would sell a few livers. He realizes that fame generates these offers. Manager Wong also says that Yong can sample the product first. Their firm has a 100-year history and if it does not work, Yong can ask for a refund. Yong takes it, says that it is nice tasting, and then says he feels dizzy and collapses. Manager Wong hurries to call his boss and informs him that the job is completed. He says that Yong proved to be an absolute fool and that he did not even have to implement the alternative plan. The boss tells him to take Yong to his residence at a bizarre-appearing warehouse outside of which some people sit by the campfire. Manager Wong reports that Yong has been dropped off to his boss. Again confused, he asks why they are going through so much trouble just to apprehend one student. The boss advises him to just stop questioning things he shouldn't and to be on guard duty at the entrance. He also states that no one is permitted to enter without his command and the disobedient one should be dealt with on the spot. Manager Wong nods in affirmation and departs. Within, Yong is unconscious. The boss examines him and is instantaneously amazed to notice that all of Yang's aforementioned sold organs, his pupils, coronary arteries, liver, gallbladder, kidneys, spleen, and stomach have grown back. He grumbles to himself that it's unbelievable. This child sold all those components, but somehow they all came back. With this finding, he recognizes he might discover the secret of organ regeneration. Cackling like a maniac, he believes that with such a secret, he might become incredibly influential and rich, powerful enough so even the world's most elite individuals would bow to him. But then he suddenly stops. Yong wakes up, already sitting peacefully in a chair. This is a shock to the boss. He thinks to himself that even an elephant would not wake up for 6 hours after taking that drug, but Yong not only wakes up but also comes to his senses. Yong inquires how he was able to find him. The boss removes a knife and informs him that if Yong is awake, then there is no need for courtesy anymore. He instructs Yong to give up now so that he can at least retain his limbs. Yong soon realizes that this guy is also a job changer and is level 20. Yong will have to get serious, it seems. If Yong casts a fire element spell here, the whole place would go up in flames and he wouldn't want to make a scene. So instead, he decides to use the illegal spell Eye of Eternal Frost. In this spell, the caster loses one of their eyes. Before they become blind, they release an area of freezing power that immobilizes everything in its effect. Before the boss can even fully understand what is occurring, Yang's eye starts glowing and everything immediately begins to freeze. The boss tries to counter it with his knife, but the blade breaks instead. He can't believe this. How can someone of only level 16 cause so much trouble to someone like him? A job chaser who is level 20. Even if Yong is a forbidden spellcaster, he should not have been able to beat him in one move. The boss can only assume that this boy is not an ordinary human being. He's some sort of creature. Yong, having regained his composure, goes back to his seat. He feels he can now speak and demands answers. He inquires of the boss who else is aware of his organ regeneration power. The boss tells him that there's no way he would have informed anyone else of something so precious. Yong trusts him for the moment and chooses to finish it off quickly. By punching the man once in the face, he breaks his skull and destroys his eyes that had been gazing at him with shock. Then, thinking that he consumed the filthy liquid, Yong decides to kill his stomach. As a consequence, he calls a bolt of lightning which immediately drops all the goons around. Only one of them, the actual kidnapper, is still alive. The goon falls to the ground and begins begging for mercy. Young asks him who is really behind everything. The man tells him he cannot tell. Young, not impressed, is about to kill him. But just as he is about to hit him, the goon gets cold feet and begs for his life. He promises to speak. He discovers the mastermind of it all is Kenshin, the king of Chinching City's underworld. Young knows the name. Kenshin is famous on the surface as being one of the city's top 10 philanthropists. If that is so, then things are getting a lot more complicated than Young anticipated. Giving it some thought before acting, Young decides there's no need for loose ends. With no hesitation, he dispatches the final goon. In the Chinching black market, Kenshin, the leader, is informed that one of his key men has disappeared after pursuing a poor student. They could not reach him for more than half an hour. When their men went to the place, they saw the whole place burn to ashes. From the vicinity, it seemed to be the handiwork of a fire element awakener. Kenshin instinctively yells out to his employees to look into the case properly. He asks them to find the missing man at any cost. The employee promises him personally to get down to the case immediately. Subsequently, we find Young alighting from a vehicle before Shane, to whom he respectfully addresses himself as boss and explains that he had sent others to receive him as soon as he heard that he was on the way. Young observes that Shane's home is rather large. Shane introduces the subject of the 2 million yuan that Young had before requested. He explains to Young that he already told his dad, but there is some issue presently in transferring it. Young, however, does not like Shane mentioning money at this juncture. To him, it just seems like Shane is looking down upon him. Since Shane referred to him as boss, then as a subordinate, money should no longer be an issue. Shane fastens his hand on the shoulder of Yang and assures him that he will not mention it anymore. Young is to consider this as his home from now on. Shane believes in his heart that his dad was not wrong. Young is indeed simple-minded. At the same time, Young mentally calculates that as long as he remains hidden within the G estate, he does not think that Kenshin would go so far as to send someone over here to take him prisoner. As they continue into the estate, a procession of maids appears to greet them. Young is shocked by the view, but noticing the luxury before him, he finally gets why all people want to be rich, as rich individuals' lives are really different. Shane asks him whom he prefers among the maids and says he'll send her to his room at night. Listening to this, Young decides not to spare anything. Even some of the maids take initiative, obviously being interested in assisting Young. Shane informs a few of them to get Young to change his clothes, but Young replies that there is no need, he was only joking. Shane smiles and advises his boss not to be modest. He explains that he wants Young to change because they are going somewhere significant. Inquiring, Young asks what this big thing is, but Shane says he will get to know once they arrive. After he has showered and dressed in new clothes, Shane brings Young to the Chinching yearly auction. He figures this is Yang's first time at this type of event. Shane tells him that everyone who is wealthy and influential in the city will be there, and he is going to introduce Young to a couple of them later. But Young reassures him not to worry, he can just mind his own business for now. While Young goes to eat instead. It's ridiculous from Shane's perspective. He believes the poor will always be like the poor. He reminds himself that Young obviously looks like he's never been out of the house. But Young is famished. He has worked all night, and after giving up his stomach, he's more than within his rights to want to eat. While Young is having a meal, there comes a voice calling out to him, inquiring why he is there. It's Keira Knightley again, but this time with her friend Lena, who inquires as to who Young is. Young averts his face, feigning not to know them. He quietly wonders why he is always encountering this stupid woman wherever he goes. Keira inquires of Lena if she remembers the events that transpired in the secret realm. Lena states that she recalls Keira telling her that she had encountered a genius fire user in this place, and she is wondering if Young might be the person. Keira immediately negates it, informing Lena that this person is not him. This is the one who abandoned her and fled, leaving her vulnerable. She informs her friend that encountering him here is bad luck and that they should go somewhere else. Young listens to every word, and it makes him smile to himself. He thinks about what this stupid woman would do if she knew that he's really Ling Young. And then, out of nowhere, a bunch of people come with Shane, who introduces them all to his boss, Young Lin. The rest are absolutely flabbergasted to find Shane, whom they accept as their leader, calling Young his boss in turn. Shane tells them all to shut up. Normal people, he insists, are obviously not qualified to be his boss. He then asks them if any of them even understand what level his boss is now. When they go and check Yang's stats, they are immediately shocked. Young is level 16. Now they know why the name Young Lin rang a bell. He's the highest ranked player in this round of the Rookie Secret Realm. They all admit that it's an unprecedented achievement, considering that when they themselves emerged from the Secret Realm initially, they were merely level 6. Young assures them there is no reason to be so shocked. He was able to reach that level due to the fact that he had some experience level up. With a small sigh, he continues that if he could just go outside the city with them, he would have taken them with him so that they could have leveled up together. That way, they could have both gotten good marks on their final exam. Upon hearing this, everyone instantly offers to go with Young to level up. But Shane reminds us that to prevent such an occurrence, no students are allowed to exit the city prior to the final exam. Young already knew that the route to the final exam is outside the city. So at that time, if they can leave, they can level up with him. Nevertheless, there is a problem. Although Yang is at a high level, he doesn't possess any equipment. Shane quickly assures him that it is easy to obtain equipment. He assures Young not to worry. As long as Young takes him along to level up, anything Young desires at the auction, he'll buy it for him. Young requests verification, wishing to know if Shane is being serious. Shane replied confidently that of course he is. As long as it will assist him in scoring more on the last exam, regardless of how much money he is spending, his father will help him. The auction later starts. Everyone is greeted by today's auctioneer, King, as she welcomes them on behalf of the Shinbao auction house. She expresses that she hopes everyone who is present today will be able to acquire what they want. Without delay, she reveals the first item for the day, an epic tier skill scroll. It is still a fire element skill and is perfect for mages. The bidding starts at $50,000, and bids have to be raised by a minimum of $100,000. She asks all of them to start bidding. Hands go up one after another, raising the bid in a hurry to $600,000. But then Leon bids $3 million, and the room falls quiet. Young immediately gets it, as Kira Knightley is a fire element awakener. Her father is paying through his nose to purchase this skill scroll for her. He wonders to himself how things are different when you have money. Luckily, Young doesn't require any skill scrolls for himself. He is a forbidden spellcaster, and all the skills he employs are forbidden spells. Young then advises Shane that because his occupation is an A-rank swordsman, if he finds any abilities within the auction that are appropriate for him, he should bid on them. Young informs Shane that these abilities might save him from death when it is really necessary. Shane gets the point right away. The second item is very uncommon, a ring that boosts spiritual attribute by 30 and has a passive skill called Dragon Blessing. The initial bid is $2 million, with a minimum bid in steps of $100,000. People start bidding rapidly, and the price quickly goes up to $3.1 million. Young says that a ring that adds 30 spiritual attribute by itself would be of great value to them, so he immediately tells Shane to bid. Shane requests his father to bid for the ring, and his father immediately bids $8 million. To him, paying that to assist Shane in getting into a high-level school is well worth it. Apart from that, the life of a banned spellcaster is brief. In a couple of years' time, when Young is gone, the gear will probably go back to the G family anyway, so he has no worries. But another individual suddenly steps in and bids at $10 million. This new buyer is Kenshin, and he greets President G straight away, inquiring about his well-being. G is baffled. He questions why the king of the underground is at this gathering. Young also notices Kenshin but keeps his head down. He can't risk being found. Kenshin then orders G to tell him why his man was knocked out. G is lost in the accusation and has no idea why he's being accused. Nevertheless, he wishes to demonstrate that the G group is not to be taken lightly, so he raises the bid to $12 million. Kenshin grins and takes up the challenge, stating that he wishes to know who would reach the finish line. He subsequently silently inquires of his staff whether they have verified whether the automobile seen close to the warehouse actually belonged to the G group. The employee verifies it, without any doubt. The car returned to the G family villa that night. This verification enrages Kenshin. He promises to destroy the G faction but cautions his men that when he does so, they should not reproach him for his cruelty. Later, when the Emperor Dragon ring is transferred into Young's hand, G inquires whether he truly loves the ring. Young responds that he does and thanks Uncle G. Shane asks him then who that man was. G informs him that it was Kenshin, the king of underground. He has always longed to sanitize his reputation and be a respectable businessman, but now he is attempting to meddle with G Group business. Young chimes in that the G Group is a big company and is sure to attract unwanted visitors. He recommends that they be more careful in the future. G concurs. Once Young wears the ring, he is able to feel its effects instantly. The Emperor Dragon ring adds 30 spiritual attribute and it can be upgraded. His passive skill, Dragon Blessing, gives the wearer a blessing of dragon power, adding 10 luck. Young is particularly interested in the luck added. He reassures Uncle G. Even if he must carry Shane, he will ensure Shane enters a prestigious school. Uncle G simply smiles and states there is no necessity to be so formal. Uncle G views Shane and Young like brothers, and if they require any more equipment, they need only inform him. Shane, getting a little tired, still thanks his boss later. He tells Young that because of him, his father was able to afford so much on equipment. Shane then asks Young what equipment he would prefer. He may choose anything he likes. Various possibilities are given. Azure Thunder Ring adds 15 spiritual attribute, can be enchanted, and enhances lightning skills by 20%. Molten Moon Necklace gives spiritual power 200. Dual Yin Yang bracelets give spiritual attribute 40. Worn together, the Yin and Yang bracelets have a twin effect that increases healing factor. Young scans the gear and thinks this isn't such a bad haul after all. A ring to enhance thunder damage, a necklace to enhance spiritual power, and a pair of bracelets to enhance healing. Young desires all the gear, particularly the bracelets. Even if other people discover his body's secret, this item will provide him with a means of deflecting suspicion and clearing things up. The sword is also incredibly powerful. He'll be able to use his level 10 nullifying spell with it. The Starfall Fracture raises his strength attribute by 300, and during Starlight, it gives him stacking strength bonus, which goes up to a max of 100. Young is totally smitten with the blade. He informs Shane that with this sword, they will be invincible in the coming exams. Nullifying spell, along with Yang's Schaffer technique, is a killer synergy. Each time the nullifier attacks with his sword, a year of the player's life is drained, while in return, the sword's damage is doubled. The effect can stack up to 99 times. In contrast, at home, Kira cannot figure out why the G family likes that coward. The G party already spent more than 100 million on equipment alone, and on someone like Yang Lin. She thinks that they must be plotting something in the background. Then, one of her employees tells her that Lena has come, and she's brought some individuals with her, saying they have news regarding the individual Kara has been trying to find. Kara is immediately overjoyed and tells her employees to make them wait in the guest room. She will be along in a moment. Later, Kara encounters them and inquires if they have any news concerning Ling Yong. Lena introduces her to the investigator, Huang, who informs her that he has some news about the person she's searching for. Huang welcomes Kira and assures her that he does have some information, but it's bad news. Kira does not realize what he means. Huang describes to her that a city farm was burnt down, and numerous people lost their lives in the blaze. They discovered evidence of a fire attack at the scene, and their inquiry implicated it in the same Ling Yong she's been looking for. He informs her that the Bureau of Investigation would appreciate her assistance in the case. Kira, clearly disturbed, refuses to accept it. She insists that there is no way Ling Yong could be a sort of murderer. Had he been a killer, he wouldn't have rescued her at that time. Lena rushes up to stop Kara from getting agitated. Huang goes on saying that the Ling Yong she was talking about can somehow use Hellfire to kill level 8 enemies in one swoop. But when they were investigating, they weren't able to discover much more about him. He then tells her there's another person they're interested in and asks Kira if she knows the individual. Kira asks him who he's referring to. Huang drops the bombshell, Yang Lin. Based on the findings of their inquiry, it is highly likely that Yang Lin is indeed Ling Yong. This astonishes Kira. She can't believe Huang is serious. She maintains that Yang Lin is simply a coward, a person who is afraid to die. That fellow fled from her when they were in danger. There is no possibility he is Ling Yong, and he certainly does not possess the ability to cast Hellfire. But Huang, keeping a somber look, asks her whether she is certain. Unbeknownst to her, he is actually employing lie detection in the process. Kira responds that she knows she's the only one who has ever seen Ling Yong in person, and he is absolutely no way that coward Yang Lin. Huang quietly deduces no one can possibly lie before a polygraph expert like him. It looks as if the killer later is not Yang Lin. He thanks Kira for her assistance and assures her he will not trouble her anymore. But in the event that she gets any new information, he requests her to call him immediately. Kira understands and promises him that she will. Amidst the starlight, Yang instructs Shane to hurry up and test the equipment. Yet, he is wondering where Shane is taking him. Shane responds by saying that this is the location he had been referring to, where Yang can test everything. Upon arrival at the door, they're greeted by a receptionist, who inquires if they'd like to do practical training tonight. Shane assures her and informs her that, yes, his boss wants to try out his new gear. The receptionist inquires about their levels. When Yang informs her that he's level 16, she nods in recognition and says she'll prepare a training room appropriate for level 20 and lower. She tells them that it costs 100,000 yuan an hour. But Yang asks for a training room for levels 40 and below instead. The receptionist hesitates for a moment before understanding and agreeing quickly. She tells him that she'll arrange it immediately. In a training room with level 40 puppets, Yang unsheathes his sword. Since there are no cameras in there, he can do whatever he wishes. First, he tries using the power of his life sword and the curse spell Burning Reincarnation. With one sweeping blow, he cuts through thousands of puppets. Then, he uses the life sword curse spell again and cuts down even more. Yang is thus far satisfied with how he is doing. He decides to experiment with other curse spells afterwards. Outside the room, much crashing noise can be heard coming from inside. Listening to the commotion, Shane tells the receptionist that with exams imminent, his boss gets a little wild during training. The receptionist merely says that if he trains so hard, he will definitely get good scores. Yang appears a moment later, somewhat fatigued. He tells him he will rest and then inquires as to whether he will have to pay for something broken in the training room. The receptionist believes he is being facetious. She responds that if a trainee level 16 can wreak havoc on anything in a training room of level 40, then the quality of the room isn't good enough, so they wouldn't deserve to claim compensation in the first place. Yang smiles at that and tells Shane to come along with him, but when the receptionist walks into the room and sees the devastation, she screams to the heavens in shock. Later, at the G family's residence, the guards outside are suddenly attacked. Inside, G wonders what the commotion is. Then, one of his men comes rushing in and yells at him to flee, but is quickly knocked brutally to the ground by Kenshin. G quickly pulls out a gun, but before he can shoot, Kenshin quickly disarms him. Standing on G's face, Kenshin taunts him, telling him that he's foolish to use a gun against an awakened. Another of his men comes over and states that they didn't find the targets. Kenshin deduces that G must have assisted Yang and Shane's escape for the time being. He commands his soldiers to take away G, vowing he will let him live a bit longer. Meanwhile, Yang and Shane come to the house. Shane is perplexed. There is not a single light on. He is wondering if there has been a power failure, but Yang suddenly catches a whiff of blood. Horrified, he runs forward, and within the house they find bodies strewn all around the floor. Shane is frightened. He believes they have come to the wrong house. No way this is his. Yang orders him to remain vigilant. Shane runs around wildly, shouting for his father and Uncle Fu, anxious to know where they are. Yang looks around and sees a note on the table. He takes it up and invites Shane to come and see. On the note is a message. If Shane wishes to save his father, take Yang Lin to the subterranean black market. For every 6 hours of procrastination, I will send a piece of his father. Shane tightens his fists, raging. He knows that this is the doing of Kenshin. He vows to bring him down. Yang informs Shane that this occurred because of him, so he should be the one to deal with it. He orders Shane to hide in some safe place, threatening to save his father. But Shane, enraged, refuses to let him go alone. He desires to battle Kenshin himself. Before Shane gets a chance to finish, Yang knocks him out cold with a quick strike. He whispers for Shane to have faith in him and vows to return his father safe and sound. Having laid Shane carefully on his bed, Yang is now grave and determined and swears to reveal to Kenshin just how frightening a curse master who does not fear death anymore can be. Afterwards, in the dark area of Qing City, at the underground black market, Yang comes, moving quickly over rooftops. He is relieved that he reached on time, but then he's seen. Even Yang is surprised they sighted him too soon. That should not be possible. Seconds afterwards, several laser pointers from rifles target him. The goons taunt, inquiring as to which century Yang believes he is in. Why does he remain stuck in the shadows? Yang knows there has to be infrared night vision following him. He didn't expect there to be this much advanced equipment in the black market. Next, the goons instruct Yang to come with them because the boss has been waiting for him long enough. This Market-Ein approached them when they informed him that their master has been waiting for him long enough. Ellen made the decision to dash in an indirect manner. He then casts his burning reincarnation curse spell. He gave up his one kidney because the right one has regenerated. The 3 men before him fired bullets, but he slumped and managed to dodge them. His ability made the area shrouded in smoke. He attacked unexpectedly, and everybody was trying to get a glimpse of him. He attacked 2 guys with his fleeting dance, and he's going to kill everyone, knowing that his secret will be revealed if he spares anybody. He rushed in and fought more of the enemy. Someone used a wind magic wind blade, and he was amazed at how fast it was. Then he saw a wind type awakened above level 30. There were 2 guys with swords standing before him. "Little bastard, you'd come here by yourself? Aren't you afraid to die?" the long-haired guy declared. His friend laughed and informed him that they needed to capture Yilin alive. Yilin confidently informed them that they were not lucky, since he was carrying a sword. He turns on a starfall trace with a life sword curse spell and uttered, "Come on, let's see how many times I can stab you." The short-haired man then retaliated with his wind magic dragon pistol, but Ian evaded and countered with the first sword technique. The long-haired man intervened, casting an attack with a wind blade. Ian cut the guy with his second sword technique, and the 2 guys were injured. "Boy, you're quick, but do you want to scrape me?" the guy with short hair replied and laughed. Ian rushed toward them and said, "Don't worry, wait a while. You don't know my sword technique yet." He attacked with his third sword, and the guy deflected it. He struck again with his fourth sword, and the two men still deflected it. He struck his fifth to his eighth sword, and at this point the long-haired man's sword was broken and he was slashed again too. His friend was concerned about him. In contrast, Ian was so amazed that the eighth sword was so fierce. He was standing before the short-haired, and the guy was now terrified of him, not knowing what sword move he was employing. Ian assured him he didn't need to know, and he then dispatched him without hesitation. "You're not human, you're the devil," the long-haired dude cried. Ellen also then killed him with hellfire, and because everyone was dead, Ellen thought to enter inside and look for Kenson. He walked while announcing that nobody can escape alive tonight in this warehouse. He destroyed the door and attacked the men inside with his hellfire. They were crying for help, but of course Ellen is not going to let them live. As he went upstairs, he killed everyone he met. One of the guys ran away from him, so he was irritated, because he had to recount with his sword technique. He was surprised when someone stood in his path. This guy was gigantic and was wielding an axe. "This is the #1 fighter of the black market, Shishowi, who was level 42 awakened. Boy, what is your secret? You have not fallen down despite such injuries," said Shoi. Ellen was concentrating on the axe, believing that it weighed hundreds of kg. "You lay down the axe first, and I will explain," he said. Shoi did not let it happen. He attacked Yulin, telling him he would kill him and slowly analyze his secret. The instant he unleashed an attack, it made a big impact, yet Ian is alive. Ian employs his burning reincarnation curse spell and fleeting dance. Shoi was laughing when he found out Ian was a curse master, and he's thinking about how long Ian will be able to survive by burning his life for combat power. They exchanged attacks, blocking, deflecting, dodging until Ian's weapon went out of his hand. Ilin's face was very grave at this time. As predicted, a level 42 job changer really was superlative. Despite the 99 layers of Yanshua sword technique, his burning reincarnation, and his passing dance, he could not match Shishiochi. Ilin's killer was his burning immortality. Shishiochi utilized his past momentum and smashed forcefully on Ilin's shoulder, releasing a teeth-clattering sound of bones shattering. The cracking of Ilin's shoulder bone and clavicle when attacked caused him to spit out a mouthful of blood, and his entire body was battered all over the room like a cannonball, crashing into the nearby wall heavily. Shishiochi went up to Ilin's severely battered body, somewhat in dismay. He had hardly gotten started, but Ilin was already out. Ilin would second this opinion. Engaging a close combat master, his sword work was woefully inadequate. However, at least he still had something in reserve, and Shishiochi should recall that he was the one who pushed his luck. When Ilin gradually stood up, the shoulder wound rapidly healed and all other internal wounds that were dealt to him. Because what followed next was so mind-blowing that it even felt overboard. Ilin pulled no punches at all and struck with all he had, giving up everything he could. And I mean everything. Liver, left lung, stomach, right kidney, gallbladder, duodenum, pancreas, spleen, large and small intestines, name it, and it's probably inside, just to call up the mythic world-destroying thunder. You see, forbidden magic was not all-powerful. Therefore, regardless of how powerful a forbidden magic was, the one who uses it needs to be powerful enough. The true strength of Ilin was only 16. Therefore, if it were a normal thunder, there is no way it would be able to do much harm to Shishiochi. But this world-destroying thunder that was summoned at such a huge cost of sacrifice was obviously incomprehensible in power. When the familiar chaos thunder poured down, Shishiochi's pupils exploded with an aching horror, and it didn't require a genius to see that he was fucked on all levels imaginable. While he possessed his divine physique that could still withstand some of the onslaught from the chaos thunder, it was certainly not even remotely sufficient. The thunder that destroyed worlds battered into Shishiochi's body, causing destruction. It didn't take more than a second for it to incinerate the top half of his body to ashes, leaving him with a hand on his battle axe and his lower half which quickly followed. Ilin's swordsmanship might not be up to par, but his chaos thunder summoning was a completely different story. Now if there is something that Shishiochi wants to learn, he can go ask the Devil King. Groaning in agony, Ilin made his way to the next floor, a bit lightheaded. Giving up too many organs at one time definitely did a number on him. Meanwhile, in the presidential suite in the same building, Kenshin, apparently unconcerned, was merrily enjoying himself with one of his several women despite being told that there's been a trespasser. He thinks having Shishiochi as a mini-boss was more than sufficient to handle whatever whack job dares enter his territory, following the intruder managing to beat all the guys in the building, of course. Anyway, the serious business at hand was if his little toy is interested in trying something tasty he has in store for her. The lady, Miss Chen, picked up on what Kenshin meant and was more than happy to play along. But before the two could go all naughty, Ilin stormed into the suite like a raging bull. And like a Kenshin's in-house cockblocker, he did not hesitate in demanding where President Ji was. Incensed, Kenshin arose and went towards the little brat, somewhat perplexed as to how he was able to reach him. Kenshin questioned where Jaishochi was, but it seemed that Lin was tired of the pointless bantering. Wielding his sword, he jumped high above the ground and brought it down, stating that his dear little pet was dead and he was next. Kenshin merely laughed at the temerity of this little brat and picked up the sword with his bare hands. After all, he was the underground king of Qingqing, and there was a long queue of people who wanted to kill him, but Lin was not quite worthy. Kenshin then took Lin by the neck and wasted no time asserting his superiority. He instructs Lin to remember an important lesson in order never to fuck with him in his next life. Kenshin sets off an immense power skill called the breaking gasp and crush Lin's throat with ease. He drops Lin's body to the ground without looking back, frustrated for wasting his time with such worthless bother. However, to his shock, the little fucker wasn't dead, but even had the energy to get back up. And on top of that, all the injuries on his body seems to have been healed somehow. Kenshin questioned how it was even possible. Lin was super dead. He made sure of it. On the other hand, Lin just scoffed at Kenshin's temper tantrum. Why would he be dead when he hadn't even had any fun yet? Lin gave his left eye in exchange and cast the curse spell, the Eyes of External Freeze. He encased Kenshin's legs in a prison of ice, and this freaking out the hell of the so-called underground king of Qingqing. He asked what kind of curse spell Lin cast and why he wasn't able to move a bit. Of course, Lin skipped the question and asked one of his own. He inquired as to where President Ji was. Kenshin would not tell where he had taken President Ji as a hostage, and Lin got back at him for it. Turning on his burning reincarnation, Lin torched the bastard's arms, and the fire consumed them out of control while he screams like a woman in childbirth. But while Kenshin was having his wailing fit, a thud was heard where knees landed on the floor behind Lin. Ms. Chen, gun held at the back of bound President Ji, ordered that Lin release his lover. Else, she would kill President Ji. This scene, Lin matter-of-factly commented how Ms. Chen wishes to be all righteous for her man. He put out the fire and proposed a hostage swap. Ms. Chen immediately aimed at Lin as soon as he began to slowly move towards her. She threatened Lin not to move forward or she would shoot. Lin asked Ms. Chen if she did not want to trade hostages. Arrogant as always, Kenshin said that he did not need a woman to rescue him. But he still wanted to save Ms. Chen, so he instructed her to leave. But that pesky woman didn't comply and pulled the trigger all of a sudden, shooting 3 times that hit Lin straight in the stomach, chest, and left shoulder. He falls onto the ground as Chen runs towards Kenshin's direction. Kenshin refers to her as a fool for not leaving when he instructed her to. The little monster she just shot was not dead. This news surprised her so much. And meanwhile, Lin had already stood up and walked to the side of President Ji. He then employed casually the external freeze curse spell eyes and froze both hands of Ms. Chen along with her gun. She couldn't conceal her shock as the sole source of her fake bravado was being doused quick smart. And the instant Kenshin begged her, insisting Lin attack him and leave her alone, his head was neatly sliced from his body. Lin's sword glimmered with a starlight, and Kenshin's frantic begging ceased instantly as Lin simply coolly stated that he was making too much noise. The underground king of Qingqing passed away with his eyes open wide, and Ms. Chen just stood there looking at the sight in complete shock, not able to believe what she was witnessing. Tears fell from her eyes, and she screamed. Lin simply disregards her as he walked towards President Ji's side with a face as expressionless as a wooden doll. Ms. Chen, sighing dejectedly, asked if Lin is going to kill her as well. On hearing this, Lin simply sighed, carried an unconscious President Ji on his shoulders, and departed. He instructed Ms. Chen not to think of such foolish things as he does not murder women and that if her beau did not abduct President Ji, he would not have been his foe. He then tells her to leave the building. Ms. Chen was speechless upon hearing this, and it's unclear whether she listened to Lin and left the building, because shortly after cleaning house, Lin incinerated the entire building with his hellfire, leaving no evidence which could be traced back to him. The entire black market was shrouded in karmic fire, turning into a sea of fire. And with that, the once largest sinful city in Qingqing officially ended. The very next day at the Ji family's house, President Ji finally woke up after his treatment. With his entire body bandaged like a mummy lying in bed, President Ji was lucky enough to have his severed hands also fixed and healed. Ji Lingyu wept uncontrollably at the sight of his father coming to. He never expected to see him again. President Ji comforts his son, telling him not to worry. As long as he lived, the Ji family will be okay. Then his eyes fell on Lin with apparent doubts and question marks. He was in a coma through the entire ordeal and had no idea what really occurred. President Ji was curious as to just how on earth Lin saved him. Lin scratched the back of his neck nervously and responded that he was not very clear on the details of the incident himself. It was all undertaken by his good friend Ling Yi. He was the one who pulled him out of Kenshin and torched the whole black market. When President Ji heard of this enigmatic Ling Yi, he was curious to know where she was from and who she was because he had never heard of her. Yilin also did not know Ling Yi's identity, and since he had only known he existed for a short while, he does not think Ling Yi will tell him who he is. President Ji caught the hint and asked no more questions. If Yilin doesn't wish to discuss it, then this old man won't ask. But the most pressing issue was the college entrance exam. Yilin and his son shouldn't waste any time. The two assured President Ji not to worry. There was still 27 hours until college entrance exams starts, and apart from that, they had studied for the exams and will not let him down. But then suddenly, 3 men in dark glasses and dark suits appeared at the villa. Invited in, the three entered boldly and revealed that they were officials of the investigation bureau. Officer Huang produced an arrest warrant and handed it to Yilin, saying he was suspected of being involved in a serious case of murder in the city. They wanted him to accompany them to aid in the investigation. A bead of perspiration ran down Yilin's cheek. He hadn't thought that the investigation bureau would arrive so soon. Nevertheless, it was too dangerous to resist arrest openly. So Yilin therefore thought to cooperate with them at first, and then decide what to do next as the event unfolds. When taking Yilin away from the room, Ji Lingyu asked the officers why they were taking his superior away. The officers did not say much as Yilin simply casually told the two to be sure and come pick him up at the investigation bureau. President Ji reassured Yilin not to worry. He would locate the best lawyer who could surely bail him out. In the meantime, as the action shifted the villa of Zhuge family, Zhuge Qinqing knocked and told her daughter at the door that there has been another news regarding Ling Yi, the fella she has been damn near obsessed with. Upon hearing this, Zhuge Nini got all hyped like she'd gotten the best news of her life. Her father actually had to remind her to change clothes first before descending downstairs, where Officer Huang from the investigation bureau awaited. While Zhuge Nini enters her closet to change, her father departed from her room with a labored sigh. He shut the door and coughed harshly. Grasping a key from his pocket, Zhuge Qinqing, with a hint of understanding in his eyes, said he never thought Yilin was capable of getting Kenshin on his own. But now, what's keeping Zhuge Qinqing serious was that he didn't have much time left. Seriously, when is Yilin going to take up on his offer and approach him for help? He pondered, and it seems that Yilin's secret was not so airtight after all. Meanwhile, in front of the Qinqing Investigation Bureau stood a tall, majestic, and formidable building, which was meant to be threatening. Within one of its special solitary cells constructed by the material science and architectural masters, it was a pipe dream to dream of escape through force. Yilin sat in the single chair in the cell when the iron door creaked open to a man whose face was hidden by the shadow cast over him. Yilin nonchalantly announced that until his attorney arrives, he is not going to say anything, although he surmised President Ji's influence and attorney most likely will not be sufficient with the amount of individuals who lost their lives. The man, obviously fed up, entered in before Yilin could say anything else. He was pulled by the jacket and suspended in the air. The man asked Yilin where that thing was. Clearly, Yilin had absolutely no idea. He asked between his strained breaths to know what the man was talking about because he sure as hell didn't. But this response just infuriated the guy who believed Yilin was acting dumb. He threatened to blind Yilin by poking his eyes out if he goes on acting. It took him hardly any effort to push him headlong into the wall. Yilin had been punched by a truck. That was when the guy told him, in a flat voice, to give him the key. Kenshin was murdered by Yilin, so it is only natural that the key is with him. At that time, Yilin did not bring anything from the black market in the underground in case he left any trace or clue behind. So even if he had a key, he incinerated it into ashes. Yet, he could not be abnormally different. Otherwise, this guy would surely take ruthless action against him, which would either reveal the immortality secret of the guy or go blind for his whole life. As the guy did not want to listen to the truth, then he will pretend. He informed the guy that the key was in his possession but not in his. And if the dude keeps going on about his cruel ways, he will ensure that he does not find it. Originally, Yilin was determined to remain at the investigation bureau until the college entrance exams, but now it appears that the destination he had presumed was the safest was actually the Dragon's Den. He had never dared dream that the deputy director of the investigation bureau was indeed linked to Kenshin. Knowing that, he still dared to demand the guy to take him out of the investigation bureau first before anything else. He clenched his teeth when the guy pulls him by the hair and punched him squarely on his left cheek. Yilin spat out fresh blood as he quietly accepts that the officer had no martial or moral ethics. The man asked Yilin calmly if he is certain that he wants to leave the investigation bureau now, since he will be a wanted criminal and certainly will not even be able to sit for the college entrance exams. Yilin pressed his lips. It looks like this was truly an impasse with no possibility of escaping at all. For his opinion, the tall and thin man's strength in front of him was even scarier than Kenshin. No matter whether he fought or ran away, he clearly could not win. On the floor, he called for a timeout. He wants to make a phone call. The man pulled out his phone and said that if Yilin had been this helpful right from the beginning, then he wouldn't have to endure. Yilin grabbed the phone and began dialing. Within himself, he promised to repay this ill will tenfold. 10 minutes passed when someone came in through the cell, and lo and behold, this individual was Zhuge Nini's father, Zhuge Changxing. When he stepped inside the cell, he instructed the officer to pound sand with his flattery. In any case, he produced the key that so badly wanted. In Zhuge Changxing's hand was the key, and he wasted no pleasantries in handing it over. But when he was leaving, the officer questioned why he was assisting the little brat. Zhuge Changxing just stated that it was not his business. He'd already handed over the key and his transaction was consummated. So with that, the man apologized and cleared out. Yilin, while thrilled that his interrogation was finally over, questioned how Kenshin's key wound up in the hands of Zhuge Changxing unexpectedly. Did he just get himself into some conspiracy? Yilin simply pretended to have an innocent attitude and thanked Zhuge Changxing. Without his assistance, he would have been in trouble. But Zhuge Changxing did not believe that crap show. He flat out told him that he rescued Yilin for his selfish reasons and not because his heart is so good. Moreover, if the secret behind his immortality would be divulged, all the influential individuals in the whole daxia and most likely abroad will come to murder him. This discovery was akin to a sledgehammer smashing into Yilin in his freaking face. Zhuge Changxing knew his immortality himself. What must he do? Should he murder him? For that matter, he'd never shared this with anyone because he well understood that an innocent man was culpable of owning a treasure. At such proximity, if he were to take Zhuge Changxing off guard and unleash the Chaos Thunder with its maximum capability, he ought to be able to wound him severely or even kill him. But then what? What should he do once he has murdered Zhuge Changxing? Playing dumb, Yilin feigned ignorance, but Zhuge Changxing was not fooled. Only just before, a flash of killing motive appeared in Yilin's eyes. Was it against him? It looks like he did guess correctly. Yilin was really immortal. Yilin was just pondering if he should act when Zhuge Changxing kept going confidently. Sure enough, if you rule out all the impossible, whatever's left, however unbelievable it is, it's the truth. Yilin possessed an immortal body but was so frail. The legends must be real. Yilin inquired what Zhuge Changxing desired of him, and with that, Zhuge Changxing responded with a question himself, asking if Yilin was ready to be his disciple. On hearing this, Yilin was completely baffled. He did not even know what he had to do as a disciple, and how would that even help Zhuge Changxing, after all? Zhuge Changxing let out a weak cough and indicated that he had not much time left, and wishes to accept a disciple whom he can delegate some tasks prior to taking an eternal sleep. Yilin was inquisitive and asked what it could possibly be so important. Zhuge Changxing then pulled out a duplicate key identical to the one that he just gave away and presented it to Yilin. Yilin was baffled. Was it possible that there were two keys? As if watching Yilin's bewildered look, Zhuge Changxing clarified with a smile that he provided a replica to the officer. It was crafted with utmost effort by an old blacksmith acquaintance of his. Anyway, the most important thing was the true ancient key of the apocalypse. Yilin couldn't help but gaze at the key in his hand. The entire key was bronze and had some spots of rust on it, but there was an ancient and mysterious air surrounding it. You see, originally this world had no monsters or job changers. Until the Apocalypse Gate Day, when 7 origin artifacts of old fell out from behind the Apocalypse Gate and spread across the globe. They all had totally different powers. The first 7 individuals who got their hands on the origin artifact of old turned into an incredibly powerful forbidden being in their own right. The gate opening, the world started to change. Humans could switch jobs and all sorts of bizarre and formidable monsters and duplicates emerged one after another. Throughout this time, innumerable terrible wars raged between humans and monsters and between humans themselves. Even original ancient artifacts were destroyed. Now that the existence of the original artifacts was already a legend, this ancient key of apocalypse is the key to unlocking the door of apocalypse. Zhuge Changxing asked once more if Yilin would be his disciple and assist him. Yilin paused for a while. Now that Zhuge Changxing already knows his secret, it was not like he had an option. Yilin accepted to be the disciple of Zhuge Changxing, but whether he could do what his master just requested was uncertain. Zhuge Changxing smiled and put his hand on Yilin's shoulder. He had become so humble, when, with his present power, if he went into the Supreme Academy to continue his studies, his future would be endless. But before anything else, there was something more Zhuge Changxing wanted to leave to Yilin. What is it? Yilin asked with clear curiosity in his eyes. Zhuge Changxing smiled a little awkwardly and wants Yilin to look after Zhuge Nini well after he passes away. Yilin should look after her so she doesn't get bullied. Hearing such a request, Yilin was a bit surprised. He even questioned whether there was any person who could possibly bully that female Tyrannosaurus-like daughter of this shrewd middle-aged man. He rubbed the back of his head anxiously and attempted to reassure his new master that he will certainly live long, perhaps breaking a 100-year-old milestone. Zhuge Changxing merely laughed at such words of optimism as he exited the isolation cell, Yilin in tow. Yilin may not know it, but he's considerably older than he appears, and that has several perks if he were being truthful. Anyway, Yilin was young and his strength can be developed gradually, so no hurry. What was important now was the college entrance exams. He needed to score well, and it seems her daughter does too. Sometime later, when the scene cut to the villa of Zhuge family, Zhuge Nini was shocked to find the person she disliked most in her house. And to make matters worse, she just discovered that her father had Yilin as his disciple. This to her was impossible and only enraged her. How could her father accept a coward such as Yilin as his student? It also appears that her classmate was not just a coward, but a compulsive liar. She demanded that Yilin leaves her household, but of course, her words doesn't weigh that much. Yilin simply crossed his arms and didn't bother to explain anything to this pampered princess. He would be more than happy to leave if her father desires. For goodness sake, it wasn't like he wanted this setup either. If Zhuge Nini has an issue with him being present, she can approach her father. Curious as to why her little princess was having a tantrum the minute she returned home, Zhuge Changxing descended. But the minute Zhuge Nini noticed her father, she gave him a pitiful glance and asked nervously why Yilin of all the kids in her class was doing inside their house. He was a coward and a liar. He ought to speed up and throw him out because there was no possibility he was his disciple, right? Zhuge Changxing answered her daughter that he did receive Yilin as his disciple. So her classmate spoke the truth. But before Zhuge Changxing could tell her the reason why he agreed, Zhuge Nini, in disbelief, interrupted her father and asked if he was insane. Was he old and dotty? How could he desire such a person to be his apprentice? And even if Yilin's personality was set aside, what of his skill? Yilin was a banned spell master that cannot live beyond the age of 25. What then could her father possibly impart him in this short span of time? He was going to die shortly anyway. As clever as Zhuge Changxing was, he did not know how to speak without giving away any secrets of Yilin. He instructed her daughter to be quiet with such cruel words. But it was not like Yilin wanted to hear anyway. And anyway, he continued that Yilin was indeed strong and was the Lingy she had been seeking. Hadn't she realized that Yilin and Lingy were one and the same all the while? Zhuge Changxing believed her daughter would reverse his impression about Yilin after knowing this. But surprisingly, Zhuge Nini only sneered and looked at Yilin with cold eyes. She never believed that her classmate was not only a coward and a liar but also a cheat. He can even deceive her father. But she knows damn well what she saw on that day. Yilin ran away like a coward he was when she needed help. And if it wasn't for Lingy showing up and saving her, she would probably be dead. How could these two people be the same person? They look and behave nothing alike. You see, for individuals such as Zhuge Nini, once they've made up their mind and becomes fixated over it, it's very hard to make them realize otherwise even if it hit them over the head. When Zhuge Nini walked away, she vowed to track down the true Lingy and reveal Yilin's hypocrite veneer. Yilin went over and asked Zhuge Changxing if he should pursue his daughter and guard her from afar. Zhuge Changxing smiled bitterly and shook his head. No need. No one dared touch her in Changxing. Also, Yilin shouldn't mind what her daughter said. She wasn't bad at heart but a bit paranoid. Zhuge Changxing apologized for Zhuge Nini. This was also his fault for normally spoiling her too much. Anyway, with the college entrance exams only a couple of hours away, Zhuge Changxing pulled out a wooden box and gave it to Yilin. Yilin opened the wooden box and discovered a mask as delicate as a cicada's wing. Glancing at the mask in the wooden box, Yilin felt a shiver down his scalp. This was not a mask by any means. It was obviously a human face, a realistic face, like it was peeled off just now. Zhuge Changxing named the mask the illusion face, a small thing that his veteran forger friend made. As long as Yilin wears the illusion face, he can transform into another person altogether, as well as having his voice and aura changing completely too. With this, if his disciple wishes to go all out with all his power in the future, he can simply wear the illusion face and go all out without the risk of revealing himself. Yilin's eyes lighted up suddenly. Though this item did not enhance his combat power, it could actually be of great help to him in crucial situations. He expressed his gratitude to Zhuge Changxing, and in doing so, Yilin felt grateful to be a disciple after all. The next morning, which was the day of the college entrance exams, Yilin stepped into Changxing Academy and arrived at the waiting area, an open ground where all the candidates had assembled to be escorted out of the city gate exit by the school authorities. The moment Ji Lingyu spotted Yilin, he ran over enthusiastically, glad that his boss had made it. Since Yilin rescued his father, Ji Lingyu had accepted Yilin as his boss and best friend wholeheartedly and openly. He also learned from his father that Yilin had been Zhuge Changxing's disciple. To the public, Zhuge Changxing took the responsibility for Kenson's death and the destruction of his hidden black market. Upon hearing this a few distance away, Zhuge Nini snorted bitterly and gave Yilin a nasty look. She really believed that her father was cheated by her classmate. Absolutely, Yilin was just an imposter and a horrible guy. The moment Zhuge Nini uttered those words, the expressions of the crowd changed and the glances they cast at Yilin became peculiar. They had earlier envied him because he was a student of Zhuge Qinqing, a great astrologer and renowned figure in Daxia Kingdom. But now, following what his daughter just suggested, it appears that there was more to what they had initially known. Ji Lingyu scowled and shook an accusatory finger in the direction of Zhuge Nini, asking if she had any proof to support what she had just said. She couldn't defame his superior without any evidence. Additionally, how could she even openly dishonor her own dad for picking an apprentice? Was she wiser than her dad? For the first time, Zhuge Nini was cornered, yet she didn't step down. She might not currently have any proof, but that doesn't preclude Yilin from being a scammer who impersonated Ling Yi and was in actuality faking it. Yilin can just wait, his scammer's days are numbered. When she is able to locate Ling Yi during the examinations, she will reveal his real identity to the world and everything will be out. It was just then that the vehicles of transportation came. There were over a dozen buses lined up in an orderly fashion in a row and stopped in front of the gate of Qinqing Academy. The buses would transport them to the city gate. The point Principal Gao skipped over, he greeted and congratulated them on becoming a great job changer. Whether or not they can get into a good university will decide their future life. The regulations on the college entrance exams were not different from last year's. And though this exam was significant, it wasn't worth their lives, which they should always keep first. With that, Principal Gao wishes each of them good grades. And the crowd clapped right away and vowed to do their best. They boarded the bus and arrived at the city gate 30 minutes later. A huge city wall with a gigantic gate dozens of meters tall and broad enough for several buses to drive through at the same time. It was grand and serious with fine lines and patterns etched on it. Each stroke appeared profound and mysterious. In the sunlight, the silhouette of the city wall could easily be seen in the sky, which caused most of the students to take a second glance when they first saw it. This was the mighty wall that stood between Qinqing and the wild, excluding all those strong and frightening monsters from outside the city gate. Buses from various other high schools also came one after another. 10 minutes later, graduating students from all the different high schools in Qinqing disembarked from their respective buses and congregated at the city gate. The moment Yilin disembarked from the bus, he reminded Ji Lingyu to keep up with him and keep to their plan. A guard appeared before the crowd and reminded the students that the exam entrance was outside the city gate. After the city gates are opened, all of the candidates must cross approximately 10 kilometers of unpopulated wasteland to arrive at the gate of the college entrance main exams. If any of them meet dangerous monsters, whether they can survive or not depends on their power. Nevertheless, if they are incapable of withstanding any of these threats within this time frame, they should keep in mind to resign as soon as possible. The massive city gate creaked open slowly to both sides like two walls. And as soon as the city gate opened, lots of candidates came out impatiently, including Yilin and Ji Lingyu. To kill Yilin and get a wager in from her dad, Zhuge Nini was part of the first group of candidates to advance quickly as some of the candidates remained behind and waited patiently, not at all rushing. The first group of candidates advancing might not arrive at the entrance quicker, but they will surely reach the ferocious monsters earlier. A number of principals from Qinqing stood atop the city wall observing this batch of candidates who were exuding energy like the sun rising. One of them made a challenge, and that was to predict the number of students from Qinqing who will be accepted in Daxia College this year. 5 were admitted last year, so another predicted that there will be 7 or 8 this time. Aside from everything, the 2 SSS-level pupils of Principal Gao certainly have Daxia College admissions unless something unforeseen occurs. Principal Gao rubbed his short beard and chuckled proudly, thanking Principal Wang for his astute observation. On the open field outside the city gate, the group were welcomed by a pungent smell radiated from monsters. This odor was blended with the odor of rotten blood. Most candidates even threw up when they first smelled it. Then a roar of a monster echoed outside, and with the sound, a giant over 3 meters tall red-scaled lizard suddenly appeared. It had vampiric eyes and its long tongue kept coming in and out of its mouth. It was a level 11 vampiric demon lizard. The majority of the candidates were suddenly scared and terrified, running in different directions trying to evade the monster. The vampiric demon lizard moved at an extremely high speed, so it was able to travel a distance of many meters with one jump. It overtook many of the running candidates in a split second. Its claws were as sharp as metal knives, and blood splattered in all directions wherever it cut through the terrified crowd with a mere swing of its claws. Sharp cries resounded throughout the field. The top principals above the city wall appeared quite relaxed, gazing at the candidates fleeing or becoming frightened to pieces. They were slightly disappointed that their students were frightened by only a level 11 bloodthirsty demon lizard and began comparing them to the later years. With so many individuals, if each one were to employ a skill, the bloodthirsty demon lizard might be battered to pieces with a volley of attacks. In any case, it was at this point that Elin dived forward towards the bloodthirsty demon lizard with the falling Star War blade in hand. He engaged the Yangshuo sword technique and 4 shining swords flashed consecutively. The bloodthirsty demon lizard that had frightened everybody and made them run for their lives everywhere had its limbs severed, reducing it to a squirming fleshworm. The principals were shocked upon viewing such a frightful sword, which was at least an above-average level equipment, and were even more astonished to view Elin, the forbidden spellcaster. At a mere level 16 with an unusual piece of equipment, he dispatched a level 11 bloodthirsty demon lizard with ease. Yet they were also wondering why Elin did not slay the monster. Just as everyone was bewildered, Elin simply called Ji Lingyu over in a calm manner. Ji Lingyu came running over enthusiastically with a sword. Of course, the bloodthirsty demon lizard could not resist in any way and was defeated by Ji Lingyu with ease. The two were given 40 experience points apiece for their joint effort in slaying the 11th level bloodthirsty demon lizard. Everyone was shocked at the absurd scene that unfolded before them. They already knew the reason why Elin did not kill the monster but merely cut off its limbs. Elin was now Ji Lingyu's tool for leveling up. At that time, the majority of the candidates had an urge to stand up at once and hug Elin's thighs tightly and beg him if he needs another servant. Before the envious eyes of the people, Elin and Ji Lingyu didn't hasten into the college entrance examination training room but swept towards the right. At the same time, Juga Nini was observing the two with a calculating expression. Since the experience points are shared if candidates decide to partner, she was confident that she would beat Elin this time again. In her view, the reason that she was defeated by Elin in the novice secret world was simply because she was not serious enough, but she would not give Elin a second chance. Whenever there was any monster on the way, Elin would handle it with a couple of sword cuts, leaving it at Ji Lingyu's mercy, who has been trailing behind and supporting very unobtrusively. When any of the monsters was gravely injured, he would approach and finish it off with his sword. Up until now, the two had joined together and killed a 12th level chimera with 50 experience points, an 11th level seahorse warrior with 40 experience points, and a level 13 skeleton archer with 60 experience points. With Elin as their leader, Ji Lingyu quickly increased his level. In no time, his level was 8. Ji Lingyu was overjoyed. As of now, Elin no longer had to do anything. He will happily be his faithful servant. He would be able to at least level to 12 or even 13 before sunset at this rate. The college entrance exam entrance will only close by sunset, so they can level and farm as long as they get there in time before the close. Elin looked around and there were naturally less monsters remaining. He instructed Ji Lingyu not to be so enthusiastic. There are not many monsters along the city wall, so they were required to venture further inside the forest. On hearing this, Ji Lingyu asked the inevitable question. If they venture further in, they will encounter level 20, even level 30 monsters, right? So, which one of them can face level 30 monsters? Elin also concurred with this evaluation, and he was sure that he would be able to deal with a level 20 monster without any problem. But they will surely need to escape if they encounter a level 30 monster. Elin grasped the sword and led Ji Lingyu further into the wilderness. Ji Lingyu was not alone in wishing to raise his level. Elin desires it too. After all, his destination was the best academy. Meanwhile, switching to the top of the city wall, Principal Gao wore a scowl. He wasn't especially happy with the young master of curses going deep into the wilderness with Ji Lingyu. Elin was being far too irresponsible, in his view. With his performance, it was automatic that he would be accepted into Daxia College. So what in the world did he want to do? His colleague principal attempted to comfort him not to panic. There were already invigilators guarding the area, so nothing serious could go wrong. Listening to this made Principal Gao somewhat relaxed despite his right eyelid twitching wildly. He wasn't sure why, but he'd had a bad feeling suddenly. He just hopes his friend is correct. And as the scene cuts again to Elin and Ji Lingyu on their way, they've slain various types of monsters but none of them had been any sort of threat. Elin hadn't even needed to let loose other forbidden spells. Using only the Yangshuo sword skill, he had been able to take care of all the monsters they've been facing, and those were all less than level 20. Worst case scenario, it would only be a few slashes of the sword. Ji Lingyu trailed behind him and was already at level 9. However, Elin remained at level 16. They then met two level 20 monsters. Elin cautions Ji Lingyu to be careful. One misstep on his part and either one of these two monsters would kill him outright. Ji Lingyu vowed to keep out of the way so Elin should not worry. He treasured his life too much so he would leave everything in his hands. Yangshuo sword technique will not last forever and has already drained too much of Elin's life. So he chose to sacrifice an organ to call for the chaos thunder. As the magnitude of the chaos thunder relies completely on the extent of the sacrifice, sacrificing an organ alone sufficed to take care of the two level 20 monsters. Stunned, Ji Lingyu viewed the burnt condition of the monsters and inquired from Lin if that was the way he wanted to kill them. Though it was effective and could kill a level 20 monster on the spot, it's just way too violent, doesn't he think so? Lin just answered that this kind of violence was nothing and there were even more violent things awaiting them. Just when they were going to continue moving forward, a man in an invigilator's uniform abruptly stood before them and stood in their way. He informed the two that they were not allowed to exit the perimeter of the exam without being authorized. It was not safe. On hearing this, Lin made a slight frown but didn't mind this limitation. But in a moment of leaving, he short-stopped, focusing intently at something behind the invigilator. With a stern face, he nervously instructed the man to glance behind him. But the invigilator snorted coldly at hearing this without even turning his head. He asked Lin whether he was seeking to trick him into going back so they can flee to the off-limits area. If he was not wrong, Lin and Ji Lingyu had planned to meet someone beyond the exam perimeter to assist them to level up. The invigilator instructed them to abandon this crazy notion. He had been an invigilator for 20 years and not a single candidate had ever been able to deceive him. Now, the two should move fast and make their exit or he will have them for rule-breaking and cancel the test. Lin continued to argue that the guy must turn around since a very large shadow was projected onto the three. And before the invigilator could even say another word, a low growl rang suddenly from behind him. The invigilator's expression changed the moment he turned finally around and faced a gigantic monster who was a level 33 goblin warrior that somehow ended up behind the guy at some point. The goblin warrior was 4 meters tall, encased in hard armor and wielding an enormous mace. It swung its huge mace at the poor fellow who barely had time to react and was dodged by the attack easily. But he got smashed over 10 meters away like a cannonball. Lin and Ji Lingyu, however, dodged the attack without any problem. Ji Lingyu was so scared that his face paled and the instant Lin said that he can run away while he distracts the monster. Ji Lingyu responded that it won't be possible. A level 33 monster, except for it to show its immortality and fight with all its might, Lin won't be able to kill it. They should instead flee and leave the wounded invigilator to deal with the monster. Lin was already in a bad mood. He had warned the invigilator multiple times to turn around, but this guy simply would not listen. And now Ji Lingyu, being concerned, would not hear him out either. He's even quicker than him, so what is he going to do if the goblin warrior chooses to pursue them instead? Lin kicked Ji Lingyu on the backside which propelled him into the distance. And in that instant, the invigilator re-emerged. As he was contemplating how hard it was going to be to handle the goblin warrior without being revealed, the massive mace hung a few inches from making him into a meat paste. Lin only gave away his appendix and a section of large intestine in return for triple the agility, and with ease dodged the enormous mace with his brief dance. The invigilator had trouble standing upright, and pale-faced, he told Lin to leave the goblin warrior to him. He had also sent out a distress signal, and he does not intend on letting any student get harmed on his watch. Before the guy could try to insist on his previous request for the two to vacate that place, the massive and heavy mace descended on him in the blink of an eye. Lin needed to save this blockhead for the second time, and at this point he'd fainted. The invigilator had already been badly wounded by the sneak attack of the goblin warrior, so the very fact that he was alive testifies to the tenacity in his will. Luckily, the distress signal had been transmitted, and at that moment, 2 other invigilators suddenly materialized and ran over to sedate the monster. Lin watched everything with a calculating eye. They told him to keep away so as not to suffer any accidental injury, and he dutifully complied. He also informed the two that their colleague had been injured so he would take him away from there. The 2 invigilators promptly began to handle the goblin warrior. At the mercy of the two, the goblin warrior had no capacity for resistance and was thoroughly suppressed. From a safe distance and behind the protective cover of the smoke and dust generated, Lin pulled out the face of illusion from the wooden box and set it upon his face. The slender mask complemented his face shape precisely, and once he put it on, he perfectly became the middle-aged invigilator lying unconscious by his side. Even had an exact same injury the fellow had on his face. Then, he stripped the guy of his uniform and quickly put them on. At this time, the goblin warrior was struggling to break free from his restraints. Although the 2 invigilators were barely suppressing that monster, it was also obvious that they'd managed to seriously injure it. The lady told her colleague to kill the evil creature already. Its demise is enough for trying to disturb the college entrance exams. As he was preparing to strike, Lin, who had disguised himself as an invigilator, presented himself and his services. The monster owes him its life in any case. In the face of the level 33 goblin warrior, Lin held nothing back either. He cast the forbidden spell, the eternal stem element. Golden energy had formed and condensed in his palm instantly, then became a golden spear with an air of mystery and something ancient about it. Yilin lifted his hand, picked up the spear, and hurled it straight at the head of the grievously wounded goblin warrior with a whizzing noise. The golden spear smashed the head of the grievously wounded goblin warrior into oblivion, killing it outright. He gained 220 experience points as a reward for slaying a level 33 goblin warrior, and the item called the Symbiosis Talisman also fell. Yilin was somewhat shocked, since the probability of getting an item dropped after slaying a monster was very small. The two invigilators were not very happy with Yilin's role in slaying the goblin warrior. They did not battle the monster and dominate it just for their colleague to come in at the last minute and hijack their kill. It was just outrageous. The man asked who the hell Yilin was and which department he belonged to. How does he just hijack his colleague's kill like that? Yilin just answered that his good deed did not deserve his name or details. The two could just refer to him as a good man and should not beat themselves about this. So with that, he walks away. The man was still angry about the whole experience when the woman told him to forget it for the time being. They had to keep things in order until the exams was over. Then they can settle the matter with him. Clearly, Yilin wasn't at all concerned when he overheard the two of them. After all, they wouldn't be able to locate him once he removes the mask. Yilin's position on the layout of the map indicated that he was still deep in the unpopulated wilderness with little more than 1/3 of the way to go. He returned the exam certification badge and clothes to the unconscious invigilator and then took off his special outfit as he continues to reel about how good the illusion face mask was. The item drop was also amazing when in good use. Symbiosis Talisman can only be applied to 2 job changers with less than 10 levels apart. They are required to lock their fingers in order to use it. Once activated, the experience points earned through monster hunting will be fully shared by the two for the duration of 6 hours. While Symbiosis Talisman was a one-time thing that is only bound to a single individual, the eyes of Yilin sparkled. This was equivalent to gaining double experience. He had initially intended to leave Jilingyu once he turned level 10, but with the Symbiosis Talisman, even if Jilingyu is the one killing the monster, he would still receive full experience points. At that time, he overheard someone shouting desperately to be rescued. This was Jilingyu, who was running away from a level 13 Anubis soldier. The Anubis soldier was wearing a black shadow with a massive scythe as a weapon. As soon as it moved towards Jilingyu, the Anubis soldier cut at its target with the huge curved blade. But just before the long curved blade would slice Jilingyu in half, he would abruptly disappear as the rapid whiz of the scythe through the air. The toe actually sank into the earth with a burst of dusty smoke. Jilingyu shook his entire body for an instant, and his eyes narrowed sharply. As soon as he spotted Yilin, he was positively ecstatic and relieved that he was alright too. He inquired as to the whereabouts of the goblin warrior. Yilin assured him not to worry. The goblin warrior has been eliminated by the other 2 invigilators. Yilin appeared with the Symbiosis Talisman in his hand and instructed Jilingyu not to lift his hand under any condition. He locked hands with Jilingyu, holding them tightly together. Jilingyu totally misinterpreted the situation as a flush appears on his cheeks. No surprise Yilin disliked any of the maids when he was at his villa. So this is what his boss is into? Jilingyu was trying to figure this out when Yilin shook him back to reality. After he had finished employing the Symbiosis Talisman, Yilin stood there in shock for a moment when he realized what was happening, staring at Jilingyu in surprise and distrust. He swore vociferously and told him to get out. In all seriousness, what the hell was he spacing out for now? Even the Anubis soldier on the other side appeared shocked, struggling to make sense of things. Yilin drew his sword and attacked the Anubis soldier, slicing it dead in a single stroke. Nothing but the scythe remained on the ground. Yilin and Jilingyu both received 130 experience points due to the power of the symbiotic talisman. Jilingyu could not help but be thrilled, amazed at how amazing the symbiotic talisman was. Where did Yilin obtain this item since it was a treasure that one could not buy with money? Anyhow, now that the symbiotic talisman is active, Jilingyu should go away and hunt monsters alone. Because Yilin surely as hell ain't gonna hunt monsters with a guy who has such vile ideas. Yilin could not even look towards Jilingyu. Jilingyu clarified that it was just a misunderstanding. He's actually a straight guy. Yilin wasn't, however. He told him to stop tailing him and get lost. They had to level up by themselves so that the impact of the shared experience could be felt. Jilingyu nodded reluctantly in agreement with this analysis. But he did tell Yilin that there weren't many monsters he could handle by himself. Yilin knew that already but still got up and left without any hesitation. Jilingyu only needed to survive. With guardedly besieging invigilators at the periphery, the students saw no monsters above level 25. Yilin employed his fleeting dance to traverse empty wastelands at a blindingly rapid speed. And with his falling star warblade and the Yangsho sword technique, he began a carnage. He didn't have to employ other forbidden spells. Just the Yangsho sword art paired with the 300 points of strength provided by the Falling Star Warblade made him intimidate the entire exams. He also was careful not to do anything too obvious. When he faced a monster of a lower rank than himself, he killed it with a single strike. When he met a monster of a level higher than himself, he would feign fighting with it and then dispatch it with 2 to 4 hits based on the level. He got a lot of wounds during this time, but hiding behind the healing abilities of the twin yin-yang bracelets, he directly used his immortal body to recuperate without arousing any suspicion. Even in the presence of other students, he kept on killing monsters and employed his immortal recovery. Other students flee for their lives whenever they encounter monsters of level 15 and above, but Elin did the opposite. He even attacked a level 20 Minotaur that could kill him in a split second. He was in fact thrilled that the Minotaur and any other beast of higher rank was being left in the lurch like a plague. Ji Lingyu on the other hand was shocked because from the start of the exams until now, his rank has been increasing very fast. He was well aware that his superior on the other side was slaughtering monsters randomly like a madman because under the influence of the symbiotic talisman, their experience points were clearly shared. Meanwhile, as the scene returned to Principal Gao and the other key players of Qin Chang, they were now observing Elin's fight with the level 20 Minotaur. While they have witnessed some good candidates who select to brush up their levels before coming through the teleportation gate of the college entrance exam, this was the first time someone went out looking and pursued monsters tirelessly just to eradicate. Principal Gao looked regretful. He knew if not for Elin being a taboo spellcaster, Xincheng City would have had another unparalleled prodigy. Seriously, a career changer who can blow away monsters in the empty wilderness with one swing of his hand would definitely have been a strong life who can defeat any rival as long as he grows up. But a black magic master would never live beyond the age of 25. His fellow principal advised him to think positively. As all the monsters within the test area had nearly been wiped out by Elin, he'd specifically ensured the number of Qin Chang candidates sitting the principal exams this year had gone up dramatically. At this time at the city's gate, the students who waited patiently for the eager candidates to clear the outskirt forest looked at the empty field outside the city's wall with smug expressions on their faces. A young man who was waving a fan even grinned in comments on the benefits of leaving the city at this point. After the monsters had been handled by those who rushed out in a hurry, they can depart easily. The whole trip from the city gate to the teleportation gate of the main exams was 10 kilometers. They had already walked halfway and had not encountered any monster. Now, they just need to rush and hope they don't meet anything unexpected. Elin on the other hand was finished hunting monsters when he was unable to see a single monster in front of him. He resolved to go inside the teleportation gate. Even though his level was now 18, he was somewhat dismayed that he was not able to reach level 20 before the main exams. However, the college entrance examination portal was like a gigantic gate of light calmly hovering in the air releasing a soft glow. When he walked towards the portal, he could sense an odd power oscillating. It was the oscillation of space magic which had the ability to teleport anyone anywhere at once. Elin entered and the atmosphere before him dissolved. When all things returned into sight, he had appeared within an enormous blue stone square. There are 10 great stone pillars surrounding the blue stone square, each of which is carved with ancient runes expressing a sense of vicissitudes and mystery. At the center of the square, there was an enormous stone tablet with words College Entrance Examination Training Ground mainly carved into it. The writing was plain and old-fashioned. Elin glanced about and noticed that the square was filled with so many individuals. When Ji Lingyu caught sight of Elin, he came running up, all in a flutter and even attempted to embrace him. Elin hastily shoved him back in horror. But Ji Lingyu didn't mind. He was so overjoyed that he was nonsensical. His current level was 15. Elin would always remain his one and only beloved boss. He was just so cool. If nothing out of the ordinary occurs with his current level, it was highly guaranteed that he will be accepted at Dasha College. A while later, Juganini showed up there with a sad face. Her current level was 14, so she believed that she was merely 2 levels behind compared to Elin. In any case, it was not a serious issue since she was able to compensate for it through her ability and talent. With the passage of time, the sun threw its final rays of light and the teleportation gate was shut down totally. Meanwhile, hundreds of invigilators emerged in all corners of the square, overseeing the activities of all candidates inside. A middle-aged man materialized quietly before the stone tablet at the center of the blue stone square. He told everyone to quiet down. Then, with a warm smile, he invited all the candidates to the 886th college entrance examination. He was the chief examiner, Lin Yuan. His voice wasn't boisterous, yet everyone within the Bluestone Square heard him clearly, and his voice sounded as if it directly addressed the candidates. He did confirm what the testees knew in the first place, that the outskirt forest was merely an entrance pass to the final examination. and only those who have gone through the struggle and pushed their way to it were permitted to take the final exam. Anyways, the college entrance examination was split into two, the comprehensive ability examination and the ring fight, which will be conducted within the day. The whole ability test contains a total of 10 levels, and the highest score for each level was 10. In addition, different candidates will have different test contents based on their professional background. They can stop at any time or finish all of them. The examiner will award marks according to their result for each level. Only candidates who scored 85 points and above qualify to take part in the ring battle. Winning the ring battle will award the candidate 10 additional points, with a limit of 150 points. The competition will be used to identify the highest scorer in this year's college entrance examination. In the comprehensive ability test and the ring fight, they may use any device, but not use any special item. Any violators will also be disqualified from the test, and that is all about the rules of this test. The faces of all the applicants turned very solemn as they line up in groups of 10 and go into the testing room. The overall ability test was going to begin. When Lin Yuan finished, the 10 giant stone pillars on the blue stone courtyard each swung open a door. All the contestants went into the stone pillar individually. When it was Yilin's turn, he stepped forward and found himself in a sealed metal chamber with many electrical sparks rushing past him. The day of the major exams had finally arrived, and it was in his hands now to pen his destiny as he prefers. The chief examiner, Lin Yuan, stood motionless on the blue stone square gazing at the 10 stone pillars. Behind him were a group of middle-aged men with powerful auras. They were all deputy examiners of this year's college entrance exams. She was accompanied by one of the women wearing a blue long dress. Despite being old, the woman was well taken care of with a thin body and a short hair which gently swayed in the wind. Her name was Su Chang Xin, and she was a supervisor at Dasha College. She approached Lin Yuan's side and apologized for being late. Lin Yuan smiled very slightly, gazed at the woman respectfully, and responded there was no need, she was just in time really. Su Chang Xin inquired if there has been any top candidates yet. Lin Yuan said that there's been a few, particularly a student by the name of Yilin who was already level 18. Lin Yuan pulled Yilin's information and presented it to Su Chang Xin. She was greatly impressed with Yilin's level and said that he was already qualified to be enrolled into Dasha College. But once she read the profession of Yilin, she couldn't help but furrow her brow. It was a pity. Level 18, even if it was only a class professional level, she could still be lenient with the conditions and admit the candidate to Dasha College. But that is not possible when it is about forbidden spell masters. Even though it's an SSS level job, everyone understands that a forbidden spell master will die before the age of 25. Lin Yuan also agrees with Su Chang Xin. It's actually pitiful. If Yilin wasn't a forbidden spell master, a real dragon would have appeared in Qingqing. When the two were talking about Yilin's score, a mechanical voice declared that candidate Yilin had completed the first part of the comprehensive ability assessment. His level test was a complete score. The second part of the comprehensive ability assessment was the three-dimensional attribute test. And candidate Yilin was told to put his hand on the test ball. When he did, his strength was reflected as 480, agility of 270, and mental spirit of 1199. An examiner could not help but grumble. He could not understand how a forbidden spellcaster could have a strength of 480. He then asked himself if Yilin possessed an equipment that boosted his strength. And if he did, why would he ever require that amount of strength as a forbidden spellcaster? Did he want to fight it out with other contestants? Another also said that 480 points of strength was weird because already, it surpasses most of the warrior class jobs. Anyway, they'll know if Yilin reaches stage 3 because he will have to apply his attacks in stage 3. The third phase of the comprehensive ability test was an attack test, and contestants were required to utilize their best attack skill they possessed. Hearing that, Yilin's immediate reaction was to sacrifice all his organs to call out the world-annihilating chaos thunder. However, he knew that divine performance was too appalling and would surely reveal himself. Apart from that, it was only a high-level test so it should not be so dramatized. However, the power cannot be too weak either because he had hoped to be admitted to Dasha College with perfect marks in all phases. Upon consideration, Yilin made up his mind and gave up his tonsils to call forth the most mundane thunder. A lightning bolt flashed and the dummies were shattered into pieces. This was his weakest forbidden spell already, but the dummies were all shattered. He suspected perhaps they were too delicate. Back in Bluestone Square, however, all the examiners were truly shocked to find the destroyed dummies that could survive any job changer attack who was below level 25. Yilin was only level 18, but the dummies blew up with one hit just like that. It's clear by now that Yilin employed a forbidden spell, and as forbidden spells were rumored to be strong, no one was surprised that the dummies were devastated. Lin Yuan couldn't help but open his eyes wide. He thought Yilin was too reckless with his life just to summon a forbidden spell during his last exams. However, his performance earns him the full points. Once he cleared the third phase, the subsequent 4 phases were tests of agility, explosive power, continuous damage output, and escape capacity. None of these phases was, however, able to halt Yilin in any way. Baffled by everyone's gaze, Yilin glided through all the phases with top marks. Lin Yuan went on observing Yilin's performance with a regretful face. He was really flabbergasted that Yilin continued to use forbidden spells as if they meant nothing. It will be a miracle if he lives up to 20 years old at this rate. One of the examiners asked him if he wants to increase the level of difficulty for the final stage for Yilin. Lin Yuan sought the view of Su Changzhen on whether Daxia College would take in Yilin if he managed to score all full marks after raising the difficulty level. If Su Changzhen has no objection, then no issue is there in raising the difficulty. Lin Yuan was even interested to know where the limit of Yilin was, as he appears to be able to endure the exams with it till now. But Su Changzhen was extremely ruthless. She apologized to Lin Yuan, but she's not on the same page as that evaluation when it comes to Yilin. In her opinion, Luo Jun, Wang Zhengguang, Zhu Ganini, and Ji Lingyu were more deserving to study at Daxia College. Her reason was straightforward. A forbidden spellcaster's power is obtained at the cost of his life, and therefore Daxia College will be squandering resources on him. Lin Yuan sighed in agreement. It was really sad. Upon passing the final level, Yilin emerged from the comprehensive ability assessment chamber and saw other candidates emerging too. The Bluestone Square was filled with students who were so eager that they posted about their test results on their friends' screens. Ji Lingyu, being thrilled to have scored 96 points, could not bear to keep it to himself when he saw Yilin. Based on these results, as long as he can win 3 more matches in the ring, he was guaranteed to enter Daxia College. Yilin, however, wasn't convinced. He queried why Ji Lingyu hadn't scored full marks. After all, he was level 15 already, so the difficulty would not be a problem. Ji Lingyu rubbed the back of his head nervously and told them that he lost points in the combat actual evaluation. His rank had grown too fast and he could not adjust for a period of time. Everyone was conversing with each other when Lin Yuan opened the comprehensive ability assessment results. The winner was Yilin with 100 points. Zhu Ganini was in second place with 100 points. The third position was Luo Jun with 98 points. The fourth one was Ji Lingyu with 96 points. And the fifth position was Wang Zhengguang with 95 points. After declaring the test scores of the top 5, Lin Yuan instructed the candidates who scored less than 85 to exit the examination room in an orderly fashion as guided by the invigilators. Other applicants with scores of 85 and higher may also opt to leave, but exiting the exam room will be considered abandoning the competition for the ring. The moment Lin Yuan finished, Zhu Ganini, looking in defiance, questioned why she was placed behind Yilin when both received perfect scores. While she despised the inability to surpass Yilin, coming in below him was not acceptable. The moment Zhu Ganini opened her mouth, it immediately sparked many candidates' suspicion. The girls even considered that it was against women. It was unjust and a pure oppression of women. If Lin Yuan is unable to offer a justifiable reason, they will appeal against the unfairness. In the face of the agitated feelings of the examinees, Lin Yuan's face did not reveal any hint of concern. He simply played the passing videos of Zhu Ganini and Yilin respectively and instructed the audience to pay close attention to them. It was the final phase of the overall ability test where the candidates were to battle against a level 25 Demon Flame Wolf. Even if the skill level and adjustability of Zhu Ganini were of the highest quality, she battled terribly before slaying the monster. But for Yilin, he slew the level 25 Demonic Flame Wolf with one skill alone, and the monster succumbed within a second. When they saw this, everyone realized why Zhu Ganini was in second place if they both received full marks. Lin Yuan faced the crowd and questioned whether there was further objection regarding the final test result. The Bluestone Square was left quiet with no one being bold enough to open their mouth, even Zhu Ganini. She could not dispute after watching the video. Lin Yuan informed the mob that the ring fight would start half an hour later and that they should rest and prepare for the competition. The outcome of the overall ability test was promptly released to the world. And when Principal Gao and the other principals caught sight of the scores, they were taken aback that Yilin and Zhu Ganini achieved perfection. The other principals started to congratulate Principal Gao. His Qingcheng Academy was hitting it big this year. Even more unbelievable was Ji Lingyu, who had 96 points and ranked 4th place. He was definitely a dark horse. At this moment, Principal Gao could not help but exude joy and burst out laughing in pure ecstasy. With 3 students ranking within the top 5, Qingcheng Academy would be a hit school for enrollment next year. Anyway, just as Principal Gao was reveling in so much admiration, there was a reminder from Principal Su of Yuzhai Academy not to rush into excitement too early during the examinations. After all, the ring tournament, the true highlight of the exams, would begin in half an hour. Principal Gao wasn't the slightest bit worried when he heard that. His students had already been the best since the beginning of the exam, so coming in first place in the ring tournament wasn't a long shot. Or did Principal Su really think Luo Jun could handle a level 18 forbidden spellcaster? Principal Su had merely answered that because nothing was guaranteed, everything could happen. At the Bluestone Square, Yilin had a surprise meeting with Zuganini. The meeting was very short, but before Zuganini left, she had told Yilin that she will not lose to him in the ring tournament. Yilin did not say anything, but within him, he asked himself what was wrong with her again. Half an hour went by, and all the eligible candidates were at the Bluestone Square. Lin Yuan laid down the rules of the tournament, which was rather straightforward. It will be conducted according to a lottery system, and winning a match gives a candidate 10 points. Then he or she would be advanced to the next round. There are a total of 104 candidates before the lottery is begun. Thus, the total between two candidates' serial numbers, which comes to 104, will be pitted against one another. In some sort of coincidence, Yilin picked number 18 and was matched up against a girl candidate Bei, number 86. Ji Lingyu breathed a sigh of relief that he would not have to face Yilin anytime soon. He was 24th, and provided he does not meet Zuganini or Luo Jun in the early rounds, his standard would be sufficient for him to finish well. Now it was Yilin's turn to meet his adversary. Ji Lingyu bid him good luck as he exits. As the two encountered each other in a battle within an arena, their profession and levels were shown in front of them. Bei was level 10 Water Mage, while Yilin was level 18 Forbidden Curse Master. Their battle was about to start, but Yilin suggested that Bei surrender. Of course, she didn't do that. She told Yilin that she won't surrender. Although he was stronger than her, she will not be scorned. Bei's face was very obstinate, and her palm-sized face was brimming with determination. Yilin just smiled and praised her for being courageous. After all, it's not easy for any person to achieve a score of over 85 on the comprehensive ability assessment. Nevertheless, this was a war she cannot win. Yilin offered his wisdom tooth and called forth the Chaos Thunder. His body became airborne in the air as soon as he held up his hand in the sky. Instantaneously, several clusters of surge of thunderclouds congregated, and numerous shimmering silver-white lightning arcs traversed the clouds like spirit snakes. With a deafening boom, a ferocious thunder dragon thick as a big python descended from the sky and hovered above Yilin like a watchful guardian. In this instant, Yilin was like a deity who ruled thunder. This terrifying sight not only made the remaining candidates who were watching break into cold sweat, but was left speechless. After all, it was outrageous and unprecedented to cast forbidden spells in the arena of final exams. Noticing that Yilin had no plan to desist, the invigilator who was monitoring the match intervened. In revulsion, he admonished Yilin that assassinating anyone within the tournament was explicitly forbidden. If he goes ahead with it, he would be disqualified for the final exams. Yilin did not want to kill Bibib, but only wanted to make her surrender. And regarding the matter of him using forbidden spells, it's because he actually did not know any other spells other than forbidden ones. Under this horror pressure, Bibib was so frightened that her legs softened, and she crashed to the ground with a thud. The next moment, she cried out, weeping like a little child. The other contestants, particularly the males, were angry. They don't think Yilin would stoop to the level of scaring such a beautiful woman like that. He was just an animal. Yilin disregarded them and questioned a crying Bibib if she'd capitulated. She eventually capitulated and was assisted off stage by an examiner. The competition finished with Yilin as the champion. He descended to the ground and received 10 marks for winning round 1. Yilin presented a despairing expression. He also did not anticipate Bibib to possess such abysmal psychological stamina that she would be frightened to tears. Looks like he'd just have to watch his step in the next rounds. In no time, the fight in the ring contest was in full swing. A dense book showed up in Juganini's hand, which was clearly some very powerful gear. As the pages continued to turn, frightfully hot fire boiled up and pushed her opponent back. Each of her attacks was unleashed with utmost precision, never giving her opponent room to move. Shortly after, Juganini beat her opponent and secured the first round. Luo Jun of Yuzhai Academy wielded a black spear with a lifelike shadow dragon coiled around the spear. Whenever the spear was swung, a dragon's roars echoed inside the arena. With his gloomy ominous eyes, he continued teasing his opponent before gaining the match. Ji Lingyu had a long sword, and with his present level contesting a level 8 opponent, there was no pressure on him at all. So after some sword clashes, he forced the opponent to surrender in place. With an SSS-level Rainbow Blade profession, Wang Zhengguang of Experimental Academy was like a ghost and could instantly beat his opponent. After a 10-minute break, the second round of the competition officially started. In this round, Yilin's opponent was a sword cultivator carrying many long swords on his back. The man, Chen Shengqin, possessed piercing eyebrows and gleaming eyes, a lean physique, and an odd temperament. But when he saw Yilin standing before him as his opponent, his face became slightly different. He then narrowed his eyes and mumbled softly as if to himself. Chen Shengqin thought it could be rather difficult to confront Yilin, but he was sure he would emerge victorious. The instant he pulled out a long sword from his back, Yilin's face immediately turned solemn. He wouldn't belittle his enemy because the occupations of job changers were all sorts of weird, and so is their abilities. Their visible level also don't reflect their real fighting strength. Anyway, the manner of Chen Shengqin looking so full of confidence, he should have special methods. The instant the invigilator started the match, Chen Shengqin declared that he'd given up. He simply turned around, calmly slid the sword back into his scabbard, and then stepped off the stage. Yilin was taken aback for a moment before he asked Chen Shengqin what he just said. Didn't he declare that he was sure of winning? Yes, indeed he did. But Yilin misinterpreted him when he spoke. He is sure he will defeat him, but not today and certainly not now. The invigilator looked strange as he once again declared Yilin the winner. That was the first time he had had the easiest task as an invigilator. While his fellow judges had to remain vigilant and keep an eye on the candidate's combat situation at all times in order to avoid their lives being put in harm's way, he pretty much did nothing but read the rules. Everyone was shocked to see Yilin win again without combat. While the manner of Yilin's opponent's surrender may appear somewhat excessive, it was acceptable. Such as who would endanger their own life just to eliminate a temporary forbidden spellcaster? Before long, it was the third round. With the experiences of the two predecessors in mind, it appears the third candidate had already decided from the time he drew Yilin. For he did not want to be engaged in battle with such an abomination, so he surrendered right away. Remembering the scene during the first round, the man understood that it would be best for him to quit. Now, Yilin was infuriated at not being able to do a damn thing. He had reached the fourth round without even lifting his finger, and his score had also hit a whopping 130 points. The crowd was dazed and lost their interest, opting to observe other examinees. Yilin's matches were a complete rip-off. He had merely employed a prohibited spell in the first match, but he was on a 3-game winning streak. Some even thought Yilin's last test was too simple and questioned whether he could score a perfect score without lifting a finger. The atmosphere turned to the bout between Luo Jun and Wang Zhengguang, both of SSS class profession. Luo Jun possessed a level 14 Shadow Dragon Spear, and Wang Zhengguang possessed a level 13 Rainbow Blade. As soon as the combat started, Wang Zhengguang, armed with 2 daggers, vanished on the stage like a specter. His speed and movements were like those of an assassin. But Luo Jun's quick eyes had no difficulty keeping pace with him. He swished the black spear in his hand, which reverberated with clang after clashing with Wang Zhengguang's daggers. Following which was Wang Zhengguang's rapid maneuvers, the occasional flashing sparks of their weapons, and the repeatedly clashing clang of metals. Wang Zhengguang alerted Luo Jun to be ready. He was going to be included in the loser bracket list. But Luo Jun ridiculed the absurdity. To him, Wang Zhengguang lacked the power to beat him. The crowd present were frightened witnessing the manner in which the two SSS level experts were fighting. Luo Jun had no problem keeping up with Wang Zhengguang's pace, but there was nothing the crowd could witness. It was clear that none of them would be able to survive a second if they were battling either of them. Even though they were both career shifters, they can easily witness that those two were on a different level. Some of the examiners who were amazed with this showdown included the chief examiner and the supervisor of Daxia College. Lin Yuan inquired of Su Changzhen who she thinks would emerge victorious in the duel. Su Changzhen, without hesitation, picked Luo Jun. She told Lin Yuan that even though it may appear that Luo Jun was being repressed, his defense had not been broken despite Wang Zhengguang taking a full blast from the beginning. Once Wang Zhengguang's energy runs out, Luo Jun would undoubtedly mount a counterattack. Sure enough, not long after Su Changzhen made her judgment, the game on the field changed. Sustained high-speed movement over a long period was very taxing on Wang Zhengguang's energy, and he could not help but reduce his speed slightly. And no sooner had his speed reduced than Luo Jun fell on him like a sack of potatoes suddenly awakened from a long slumber. Clutching his black spear firmly, Luo Jun jumped high up in the air and struck straight down at Wang Zhengguang. Wang Zhengguang had less than nothing to retreat and could merely lift his daggers to parry. He was knocked onto his back. A loud cracking noise was heard as Luo Jun's black spear cut through Wang Zhengguang's chest after crushing the daggers. The game concluded with a piercing shriek from Wang Zhengguang. Meanwhile, Yilin's fifth-round opponent also quit, leaving him rather bored with the entire tournament. At this juncture, it appeared that only Zhu Jianini or Luo Jun would be keen on contesting him. But it was in this very instant that Yilin noticed something that instantly caught his attention. It was a confrontation between Ji Lingyu and Zhu Jianini. On the stage, Zhu Jianini was floating in the air. And as she glared at Ji Lingyu with a cold stare, she longed to know what Yilin had given him to make him listen to him so stupidly. Zhu Jianini really could not get it. Zhu Jianini just threatened Zhu Jianini that she would be sorry when she finally knew who Yilin really was. Zhu Jianini was unable to conceal the clear disdain of Ji Lingyu's fascination with Yilin. She thought Ji Lingyu was merely a simpleton who had been tricked by Yilin. She openly released her phoenix exploding flames the instant the invigilator made the announcement that the book match had begun. The book in her hand glowed as thousands of fireballs were shot towards Ji Lingyu. Sweat beads broke out on Ji Lingyu's forehead once he understood Zhu Jianini's elemental spells were instant casts. Ji Lingyu's body flashed like a ghost as he jumped high up in the air to sidestep the fireballs. The fireballs exploded around him with a huge bang. Because his opponent was a long-range shooter, he must not be hit at all costs and look for ways to close in. In the air, the book flipped back and forth as Zhu Jianini raised her hand in a relaxed manner at Ji Lingyu. Instantly, all the ignited flames converged into a huge ocean of flames beneath Ji Lingyu and was sent in his direction. Confronted with this indiscriminate onslaught, Ji Lingyu's eyes turned into slits. He understood that this attack couldn't be avoided and he was forced to confront it head-on. He breathed in deeply, held his sword firmly and hoisted it aloft. With the slash sword skill, his sword energy flickered with a cold glow as he sliced through the oncoming sea of fire. The tumultuous flames was dispelled seconds after billowing into steam. Ji Lingyu was enveloped by the dense steam, gasping for air. It appeared he was at his limit, but he did not want to give up. He insisted on going on with the duel. Zhu Jianini saw this and called him an idiot. If Ji Lingyu did not want to surrender, then she would not hold back either. The book in Zhu Jianini's hand suddenly caught fire. And the instant she performed her next elemental spell, the red surging flame, it called forth an invincible firewall of fire. The arena air turned incandescently hot all of a sudden. Ji Lingyu experienced a terrible wave of heat approaching him, almost choking him. His nose burned every time he breathed in. Ji Lingyu gazed upward and saw Zhu Jianini enveloped by fire. She then inquired with Ji Lingyu whether he would like to surrender, but still the fool did not. He even issued a veiled threat to which Zhu Jianini simply dismissed as Ji Lingyu being too proud. Ji Lingyu was obviously no match for Zhu Jianini, and everyone knows that already except him it seems. Su Chengzhen remarks matter-of-factly that Ji Lingyu was going to lose, but Lin Yuan cared more about his health. He ordered the medics to step in when he observed Ji Lingyu not intending to retreat. Ji Lingyu's body appeared very tiny as the huge fire consumed him. The instant the flame reached his skin, he was overwhelmed with a piercing pain coursing through his body, as if with thousands of blazing swords slicing his flesh. His clothes burned at once and reduced to ashes, exposing his skin that was burned by the fire, but he did not back off. A burned person ran out of the huge fire, and before Zhu Jianini's wide eyes, he stabbed at her with a sword. Zhu Jianini didn't think that Ji Lingyu would keep on attacking her even though he was injured. But she acted quickly and avoided the attack, and Ji Lingyu's sword still grazed her left arm. Ji Lingyu laughed after seeing Zhu Jianini injured. By this moment, he had been scorched into a charred person by fire, yet his left eye remained vivid. He cautioned Zhu Jianini not to incite him, because his boss was the person he valued the most apart from his dad. If she will go ahead and spew trash about his boss again, she should not blame him for being merciless. Ji Lingyu's wounds were serious, and he fainted as soon as he finished threatening. Yilin didn't hesitate but immediately ran onto the stage and employed the healing power of the Yin-Yang twin bracelet to heal Ji Lingyu. Lin Yuan ordered the medical team to rush before it's too late. Looking at the sad face of Yilin, Zhu Jianini, who was somewhat terrified at the sight, informed him that he didn't expect Ji Lingyu to carry it this far. Yilin responded coldly that she wasn't responsible. The medics arrived with a stretcher and took Ji Lingyu away. On departure, Yilin complimented him on performing well at the tournament. Lin Yuan made the announcement to all that Ji Lingyu wasn't in any life-threatening crisis, but there are enormous burns on his body which needs to be treated urgently at the hospital. Anyway, the tournament was now semifinals. Zhu Jianini was facing Lin Linglin, and Yilin was facing Luo Jun. Lin Yuan was quick to point out that this year's top scorer will come from among these four candidates. Outside, another principal asked Principal Su if he thinks Luo Jun would beat Yilin. Principal Su said that Luo Jun was a Yuzai Academy genius, so he had no doubt Luo Jun would emerge victorious. Another commented that Yuzai Academy could have another top scorer this year. Principal Gao did not agree. In his opinion, there is no way Luo Jun can defeat Yilin, who is a level 18 forbidden spellcaster. But all Principal Su did was explain that since it was only a tournament, Lin will not actually use forbidden spells endlessly without neglecting his own life. Upon hearing this, Principal Gao reminded that 2 out of the 4 finalists were from Qincheng Academy, and thus Principal Su should not get too ahead of himself. And in any case, one spell would suffice to take care of Luo Jun. Principal Su was not in the least fazed when he heard this. They will soon realize who gets the last laugh. The two finally stopped arguing when someone announced that the match was starting. Inside the arena, Lin and Luo Jun were about to engage in battle. Luo Jun's dark eyes were brimming with boiling fighting spirit, and the black spear held by him glowed with a faint dark aura as if a true dragon was guarding around it. He aligned his black spear with Lin and one could hear the faint roar of a dragon. Luo Jun, who seemingly had been looking forward to a battle with Lin since the announcement of the result of the overall ability test, finally got the chance. Among all the applicants, Lin was the only one whom he regards as his opponent. As long as he beats him, the highest scorer in this college entrance exams would undeniably be him. Naturally, this was a slap in the face for the other 2 candidates who were left, but Luo Jun did not care. Lin merely quietly drew his sword and prepared himself. Luo Jun's body abruptly rushed out with an amazing speed, planning to deliver a killing blow before Lin could even prepare to cast any forbidden spell. Surprisingly, Lin, having resolved not to employ any forbidden spells but instead assess his sword skills, struck back with a slash of his sword, his blade tracing half a moon across the air. At his existing skill level, it was not out of the question to keep up with Luo Jun's pace. Luo Jun, dazed, was completely caught off guard by this. He had only witnessed Lin cast his Chaos Thunder and was anticipating the same or another forbidden spell. Yet, Lin was casting a sword. And not just that, he is even good at close combat too. This twist certainly was ridiculous as a forbidden spellcaster. Nevertheless, after the two had traded a few hits, Luo Jun became uneasy. While the Yangshua swordsmanship looked straightforward, every strike of the sword is packed with great power, and this frightening power was building up all the time. Lin's warblade repeatedly clashed against Luo Jun's black spear, producing a series of sharp metallic ring and sparks. Luo Jun's black spear possessed a complete edge at first, but the more Lin flailed his sword, the more helpless he felt as cold sweat started to ooze out of his brow. The crowd in the arena stood agog. The duel evidently didn't resemble a forbidden magic user battling against a warrior, but a warrior battling against another warrior. One of them wondered if all the forbidden spellcasters are as fierce as Lin, and another answered that they are not. Even though Lin was really not casting any spells unlike what a forbidden spellcaster is supposed to do, nobody could tell if he intended to defeat Luo Jun using this tactic. They all presumed Lin would be casting forbidden magic like mad, but what they saw was so confusing that no one knew how to answer. Nevertheless, their interest was sparked. When the scene returns to the principals viewing the live broadcast, they too were bewildered as the fight seemed to be unlike what they had envisioned. Yet they also saw something strange and wondered if Lin's sword technique was a forbidden skill. Principal Gao told the others that Lin's long knife was a lifespan sword. Essentially, it used lifespan to make every strike more powerful than the last one. Speechless when he heard this, Principal Su's face became very grotesque. He never believed Lin would go so far as to gamble his already shortened lifespan. He demanded of Principal Gao how many times Lin intended to swing his sword, and if winning the match was worth throwing away his lifespan. Principal Gao answered Principal Su with a calm tone, reminding him how he confidently stated that Luo Jun would not lose. But from the situation now, it looks like he was destined to. Principal Gao's arrogant manner made Principal Su caution his friend not to get too hyped just yet. His tone held a veiled threat which Principal Gao dismissed. In the arena, inside, Lin's Yangshuo swordsmanship has been upgraded to the 15th level, and every stroke held a frightening power. Luo Jun started to experience an unprecedented pressure that even caused his knuckles cracked and bled. The strength of every sword slash had multiplied by many times as if it was limitless. There was a flicker of panic in Luo Jun's eyes because he was going to be defeated if something didn't change. Therefore, using the skill, Shadow Heavy Break, Luo Jun held the tip of his black spear very tightly and swung it at Lin like a giant pillar. Lin gripped his sword horizontally to deflect the attack with a great struggle, yet was forced back again and again. Noticing that his attack was effective, a fierce glint appeared in Luo Jun's eyes. He asked Lin whether he thinks he was the sole one who possessed forbidden spells. It was here that Lin noticed Luo Jun using a forbidden spell talisman. The Dark Dragon Fall. The dark talisman coalesced at the tip of the black spear as the whole arena shook and the air was charged with a murderous atmosphere. As soon as the black spear stabbed outwards, the sound of a deafening scream burst forth and Lin could feel an enormous force directed towards his chest. He attempted to guard against it with his sword as his body took several automatic steps back. The crash caused an explosive mist that enveloped the whole arena. When it dissipated, Lin had let go of his sword and knelt on the ground. In his chest, Luo Jun's black spear had left a bloody wound and stained his clothes red with blood. Yilin gazed down and noticed that the tip of the black spear had gone through his heart and into his whole body. Luo Jun came up to Yilin with eyes brimming with pride and mockery, telling him that as he won't be living much longer, he could just be swift about it. In that instant, the whole bluestone square seemed to be as if time itself had come to a stop. This unexpected scene completely stunned everyone there. Nobody would have thought that Luo Jun would cast the forbidden spell himself, and much less would anyone have thought that his black spear would be able to go through Yilin all the way through the chest. An examiner could not help but remark about how Principal Su actually permitted Luo Jun to use a forbidden spell talisman just for him to become number 1 in the score. Lin Yuan was of the same opinion that it really was a shame, but winning could only promise a candidate a brilliant future from an ordinary one. He then ordered the medics to go and treat Yilin. Angry, Principal Gao addressed his friend as an old bastard. He was simply shameless to actually let his pupil employ a banned spell talisman just to win. Did he not have a conscience any longer? Or did he not remember that using forbidden magic spells is extremely taxing on the body, particularly as Luo Jun was an SSS-level job changer who had boundless future? But in a bid to achieve the number 1 position, he actually went ahead and sacrificed a future prodigy, which was clearly against their teaching philosophy and student education. Principal Su asked in a calm tone what the issue was because Luo Jun himself confirmed its use. And further, there was no law that bars teaching forbidden spells to students. Was his friend going to recognize his loss as a loss? Or was he going to complain about it? Zuganini gazed blankly at the arena, feeling impossibly complicated at the moment. She didn't think Yilin would really lose to Luo Jun. But that blow from Luo Jun was really too scary, and she wasn't even sure she could have dodged it. At first, she wanted to beat Yilin up, but with his current condition he might even die. Zuganini couldn't help but let out a sigh. If Yilin had heeded her words earlier, he would not be in the predicament he finds himself now. Zhuge Changxing noticed her daughter's attitude and cautioned her against being so nervous because the match was far from over. Inside the arena, Luo Jun was drenched in sweat, panting for air with a white face. It was clear that the usage of the taboo spell talisman had cost him dearly, but who cares? The outcome was well worth it. So what if Yilin's level was 18? He still got defeated by him. It was at this point when Yilin looked up and asked the arrogant fool in a calm tone what made him think he had one. Witnessing that fierce expression in Yilin's eyes, Luo Jun could not understand what he had just heard. Yilin's heart was injured, but he was still being macho. Angered, Yilin removed the black spear from his freaking chest as if it were a joke. It appears that a forbidden spellcaster had not come out in so long that the world has forgotten how scary they actually are. Nobody can slay them, and they will only perish from their own taboo magic. A mysterious force exploded as Yilin used a taboo spell, Immortality. And simultaneously, the yin and yang bracelet on his arm flashed, and a mighty energy began to quickly recover his body. The bloody wound resulting from the black spear healed at a rate observable by the naked eye until it vanished totally. This sudden incident triggered a commotion among all of them. They never witnessed a job changer survive after being stabbed in the heart. Did this man have an immunity to death? Only a handful of people understood what was happening, such as Lin Yuan and the rest of the examiners. The eternal forbidden spell was lost a long time ago, and they could not believe that Yilin had mastered it. They never dreamed that they would get to see it with their own eyes in their lifetime. Seriously, Yilin certainly has huge potential if he were not a forbidden spellcaster. With his lifespan in return for immunity to a lethal injury, and a device to restore this injury, Yilin was too serene to the extent that his expression was bone-chilling frightening. In the air, Yilin extended his hand and coldly stated to Luo Jun that it was his turn. As this prick adores forbidden spells so much, he may as well know what it's like to be on the receiving end. Calling the world-destroying thunder, Yilin thrust his palm forward, and the sky was instantly shrouded with dark clouds. Thunder flashed crazily, as if to engulf the whole arena. With a crackling boom, a big bolt of lightning came straight out of the dark clouds and was headed towards Luo Jun. This was obviously the same forbidden spell as last time, but this one looked really scary powerful. Frightened shitless, Luo Jun realized too late that he fucked up. Yilin's heart was stabbed, but he still had such a frightening strength after healing himself. He was a monster, for sure. Luo Jun attempted desperately to evade, but the lightning was too swift for him to respond. With the lightning bolt landing right on him, Luo Jun shrieked in pain like a pig being pierced alive. His body is blackened from head to toe as the audience discusses how savage the assault is. Gazing at his pathetic figure, this sudden turnaround seemed incredible and left everybody dumbfounded about how to respond. Luo Jun was triumphing mere seconds ago, then the next thing he knew, he'd lost since he'd been burnt into charcoal. The match official quickly ran over and summoned the medics as Luo Jun's body crashed to the ground. Yilin calmly stood in the arena, But then, as if it occurred to him to think of something, he coughed blood and collapsed to the ground, his complexion very pale. If he wants to play a role, then he needs to pretend convincingly until the end. This plotting bastard had just cast an extraordinary forbidden spell. If he pretends nothing has happened, wouldn't that raise suspicion? To the principals who watched the live broadcast except Principal Su, the others were immediately alarmed watching Lin's forbidden spell rebounded. They felt his internal organs could be harmed because how strong the spell was. Principal Su, who could not believe that Luo Jun lost even after using a forbidden spell talisman, raised his hand and wanted to lodge a report. As he explains, Lin from Qincheng Academy, a level 18 job changer, used a powerful forbidden spell on a level 14 job changer with the intent to murder him. Principal Su wished that Lin be disqualified with his scores invalidated since Lin's forbidden spell clearly comes under attempted murder. Principal Gao reprimanded his friend for lacking any dignity, and apart from that, Luo Jun was the first to resort to the use of outlawed spells in the duel. Had it been any other situation, Luo Jun's wretched dying situation would have surely convinced the crowd and the examiners. But since they remembered how mercilessly he had just stabbed Lin through in the heart, no one was falling for Principal Su's BS report. If anything, Luo Jun's was the actual attempted murder. Lin would have been crippled or most likely deceased were he not a forbidden spellcaster. Principal Su ground his teeth, then turned and walked away, reluctant to sit through any more. Principal Gao looked at him as if he was a clown when he announced that he was going to report what had happened to the Ministry of Education. Anyway, in the arena, Luo Jun's burnt condition was being taken away by the medical team. The fight concluded with Lin winning and his points were up to 140. Lin was already tired of the entire exams and wished it would already be over. From his point of view, it was more exhausting than slaying the underground king of Qingqing. And just to top it off, he had to duel that pesky woman in the final. Yep, you guessed it. Zuganini easily won her game and was facing Lin in the final. Prideful as ever, Zuganini went up to Lin and gave him a break before their duel. Zuganini did not have a problem waiting for Lin to recover. She didn't want to avail herself of his condition. Lin assured her that she didn't need to. The prideful bitch had no idea that Lin's current plight wasn't due to his physical state, but a means of overpowering her without injuring her. It was bad enough that he couldn't use his sword to fight her, but also didn't have any forbidden spell which would work. And on top of that, he knew well that the bitch wouldn't let go either, even when it's totally obvious she should. It didn't take long for 30 minutes to speed by like a bullet, and within the main arena was the much-awaited final round of the college entrance exams. Clearly, the winner would be the highest scorer of that year's final exams. The moment the invigilator declared the duel officially underway, Zuganini's book flew open as she was hoisted into the air. The battle Lin and Luo Jun had fought had made her understand that illegal spells were very treacherous. And as Zuganini was considering how she cannot afford to be struck by any prohibited spell, Lin was visibly troubled, still racking his brains for a prohibited spell to cast. He knew that Zhuge Qianqing would not forgive him if he seriously injures her daughter. There was a determined glint in Zuganini's eyes the instant she made the initial attack, the explosive phoenix flame. A cloud of fireballs was summoned in the air, with dozens of flames magically transformed into fireballs with horribly hot temperatures that whistled towards Lin. With the fireballs coming at him, Lin immediately gave up a kidney to employ his momentary dance with fivefold improvement in its dexterity. As he was unable to engage without injuring her, he intended to prolong the battle until Zuganini's mana drained. Lin's silhouette flashed rapidly in the whistling fireballs like a ghost, his actions very fast as he continuously changed positions each time. His body easily avoided everything Zuganini attacked him with. This scene stunned the crowd witnessing it. It was unimaginable that a prohibited spellcaster would possess such great agility, but they later found out that Lin was merely avoiding and not attacking. It was so obvious that he could have won the game by just activating the Chaos Thunder spell which he'd already cast. People were questioning whether maybe the Forbidden Thunder spell eats too much mana, and Lin can't use it for the third time in one day. That must be true, right? Otherwise, why couldn't he just dodge without attacking? One even speculated that Lin had to have sympathized with Zuganini, but another called that BS. He received word that Lin was already accepted as a disciple by Zhuge Qianqing and had to be intentionally attempting to give the number one position to Zuganini. Meanwhile, back in the arena, Zuganini was furious as hell about what Lin was doing. To her, his dodging and not attacking was obviously a deliberate attempt to humiliate her. Lin simply looked at her with a shrug. He did not care what she believed. And furthermore, there wasn't any rule that forbade him from consciously dodging whenever he pleases. Zuganini got angry when he heard that. Her entire body in flames, with an immensely sparkling red-gold hue. She held up her book intending to unleash an attack that Lin could not avoid. Zuganini called forth the red surging flame, the same impenetrable wall of fire she employed against Jilingyu. The air above the arena instantly became intensely hot and the temperature rapidly increased. The red-gold flames converged to become a sea of fire and circled around Yilin. Scowling, Yilin was determined to give Zuganini a lesson. He offered up half of his liver and once more boosted his agility. The sudden boost brought about an already extremely dreadful speed to grow at a monstrous rate. Though those red-gold fires terrified her, Yilin's present pace was so rapid that he burst right through and was on Zuganini in the blink of an eye. Zuganini's eyes opened in amazement, astonished that Yilin could truly add this kind of agility to his movements. She had no moment to react whatsoever and was struck light-heartedly on the head with the blade of Yilin's sword. The blow to her head hurt so much that she started to cry. Yilin told Zuganini that she had lost and needed to surrender. But being the spoilt child she was, Zuganani had never been defeated like this, and this immediately collapsed her psychological defenses. How could she have faced such injustice? Zuganani would not surrender to a vile person like Yilin. She would be more than happy to be lifted off the stage like Luo Jun rather than endure such a degrading defeat. She immediately summoned several fireballs and sent them at Yilin, who dodged easily. Yilin scowled slightly. He didn't think that Zuganini would be so obstinate and stupid. In that situation, he would just have to brutally kick her out of the arena. Observing Yilin, who was avoiding all the fireballs as slippery as a loach, Zuganini's aura grew exceedingly quickly and her flame ability was at its maximum. She let out a dainty shriek and swiftly created a seal with her hands. A much stronger burst of mana erupted from her body and all the pages of the book in front of her abruptly got ripped out and enveloped her. Above the arena, the air was warped by force as the red text on the pages glowed menacingly. All, including Yilin, observed the scene in awe-filled silence, even taking note of the powerful pressure exerted by mere activation of the spell. There was a rising fury in Zuganini's voice the instant she unleashed the curse spell, the fire tornado. Zuganini extended her jade hands forward and the pages immediately coalesced into some enormous fire tornadoes which charged toward Yilin. These fire tornadoes were unlike those summoned before. They were like a living entity as they wildly whirled about in the air. With each spin, a shocking high heat was emitted as if it intended to reduce everything to ashes. No matter how Yilin evaded, the fire tornadoes trailed closely behind him like a thorn in his body. He understood that the spell was able to track and pursue a target. Zuganini descended to the ground with her face ever so pale and her attire already drenched in sweat. It was clear that employing this skill had drained her immensely. Her book was burned, but as long as it can ensure her victory, everything was worthwhile. She strongly believed Yilin had no place to hide from the attack and needed to concede. Yilin was confused when he heard this. Did this bitch really have brainpower akin to rocks? You see, Yilin had long imagined a way out the moment he found out the spell contained a homing ability. With his phenomenal quickness, he was behind Zuganini before she knew it. Zuganini should have understood the basic principle when she casted her spell. So, to let out a spell that has a homing ability without any teammates to safeguard her in case of a fast opponent was equivalent to suicidal activity as a mage. Had she not learned this in class? Stunned, Zuganini's eyes opened wide upon discovery. And at that time, the fire tornadoes were like violent storms, coming towards them at full speed. Yilin instructed her to end the skill and yield in a calm manner. But this cunt with tears in her eyes said she wouldn't do that. She won't let Yilin win even if it kills them both. Rather than releasing the curse spell, Zuganini amplified the output to maximum, making the fire tornadoes more ferocious. She really intended to die together with Yilin instead of being humiliated once again. As soon as the crowd understood what Zuganini had just done, her father cried out frantically, begging her to not do something so foolish. Meanwhile, the medics and the invigilators hurried towards the arena in a rush. Yilin outstretched his hand and dragged Zuganini to him, and then lifted his hand as a frightful power surged out of his palm. The arena beneath his feet shook immediately with a thundering sound, and a wall of stone instantaneously materialized between him and Zuganini and the onrushing flood of flames. The stone wall, which was one of the forbidden spells Yilin merely unlocked after leveling up, possessed an ancient and foreboding presence with intricate mystery, as if it were not something that consisted of solid substance. The skill effect was as simple as its name, the Wailing Wall. It can be called forth from the darkest recesses of hell at the price of a lifespan. The Wailing Wall could negate any attack if the attacker is not 20 levels higher than the spellcaster. Anyway, just like a gate of the abyss, the Wailing Wall gaped open and devoured the torrent of furious tornadoes of fire without a sound. Part of the audience saw the Wailing Wall and was shocked that an examinee was actually successful in casting such a ban spell. The Wailing Wall faded soon after as Yilin expressed gratitude to the heavens for being fortunate enough to have broken this defensive curse spell. Otherwise, he honestly wouldn't know what else to do. With a gentle touch, Elin smoothed out Zuganini's ruffled hair and provided her with a reassuring smile that restored her from her trance. While Zuganini eventually knew how scary their gap in power was, she also couldn't help but blush. Zuganini could feel her heart pounding way too faster than her usual heart rate, particularly when she also knew that Elin did not seem as bad as she initially perceived her to be. The audience observed the heartwarming moment on the stage and couldn't help but smile. They sensed something was happening between the two and were eager to learn more about their connection. They were certain that Elin was only afraid of injuring Zuganini, so he never attacked but always evaded. Then, like splashing cold water into their faces, Elin unceremoniously kicked the arrogant bitch out of the arena, repeating once again that there is only one top scorer. Zuganini, totally unbefitting, headfirst landed on the ground with a thud. There was even a big shoe print on her perk behind, to which the live feed provided a close-up shot. The mute crowd just stood there in horrified silence. How can an endearing hormonal moment a moment ago converted into an instant ass-kicking the next? Though Zhuge Qingqing was glad that she was fine, he could not help but feel embarrassed with the whole episode. Zuganini got up and proclaimed her intentions to take revenge on Elin for this humiliation. The exam invigilator declared Elin to be the victor of the last round of the ring tournament, adding up his points to be 150 and proclaiming him as Qingqing's champion. As the crowd celebrated and congratulated him, Elin wished these accomplishments would be good enough to gain admission into the Supreme Academy. A woman in the crowd queried Elin about which academy he would be going to. Elin's response was clearly the Supreme Academy, and the crowd was as thrilled and excited as he was. But as the Supreme Academy supervisor entered the arena with Principal Gao and Lin Yuan, she apologized to Elin and told him that he'd been turned down. Principal Gao and Lin Yuan, already knowing Su Qingxian's verdict, held their peace with a somber face. While Elin had a good idea of the reason, he couldn't help but inquire why. The reason was his occupation as a forbidden spellcaster. From the beginning of Job Changers, there have been 11 forbidden spellcasters and their average lifespan was 22 years. The longest-lived forbidden spellcaster expired at the age of 24. These 11 ancestors only verified that forbidden spellcasters have no worth to be trained. Putting resources into them would be like pouring money into the sea. Su Qingxian was very candid, yet it was the truth. Elin knew that, naturally, as did the crowd. For years is how much time universities spend teaching a job changer, and Elin was already 18, so he would be precisely 22 when he graduates, which coincides with the average life expectancy of a forbidden spellcaster. For an instant, there was a touch of sympathy in the audience's eyes as they looked at Elin. A figure soon materialized next to him with a familiar windbreaker, glasses with gold rims, and an austere temperament. Zhuge Qingqing told Su Qingxian and the examiners that he may already have the answer regarding Elin's fate. Upon hearing this, Su Qingxian requested that he explain further. As Elin was his disciple, Zhuge Qingqing clarified that he had come up with a way that minimized the effects of casting forbidden spells to his disciple. However, if any of them did not believe him, they can perform a physical checkup on Elin's body. Apart from Su Qingxian, everyone, particularly Lin Yuan and Principal Gao, were in shock. If Zhuge Qingqing truly is able to lessen the effect of casting forbidden spells on the forbidden spellcaster, then Elin will truly become the rising star. Su Qingxian was unconvinced. Certainly, Zhuge Qingqing was an adept astrologist, but now he's supposed to know about job changers. Was Zhuge Qingqing as adept as the professors from the Supreme Academy? If Elin still didn't survive beyond the age of 25, would the lost resources be made up by Zhuge Qingqing? Being subjected to Su Qingxian's in-your-face interrogation, Zhuge Qingqing furrowed her eyebrows slightly, then begged her to set aside personal feelings and simply do the checkup. She shouldn't destroy a genius future due to him. Su Qingxian detailed that she wasn't making this decision based on her own emotions, but on the will of the Supreme Academy. They simply can't accept a forbidden spellcaster. Gossip sparkled in the eyes of the numerous people at this point. No matter how stupid they were, it was obvious for them that there was something between Zhuge Qingqing and Su Qingxian. Elin interrupted, not wishing his master to embarrass himself further. He instructed him just to drop the issue. It was okay that he did not go to the Supreme Academy. After all, it was only a school. But in that very moment, Elin made it clear to Zhuge Qingqing that he had made up his mind. A taunting voice suddenly accused him of being arrogant for the flippant dismissal. Zhuge Qingqing noticed the attack and alerted Elin, but it was too close for him to avoid, so he protected himself with his arm. Suddenly, a strong aura burst out from this figure clad in a hood, aiming to subjugate Elin. Elin could feel the pressure clearly and considered that it was not weaker than Kenson's. Elin held the wound on his arm tightly and asked who the dude was. The skinny-appearing fucker laughed and told him that he was Yun Guanlu, the dude who just beat Elin and a freshman in the Supreme Academy. Yun Guanlu described how the Supreme Academy was not just a school and how Yilin's offhand rejection proved just how arrogant he was. Su Ching Xian cautioned the pitiful-looking fucker not to dare hurt anybody else again. Otherwise, she will have him write an apology letter upon their return. Yun Guanlu answered that he was greeting him and did not intend to hurt anyone. But who knew the top scorer of Ching Xian was so feeble? Lin Yuan and Principal Gao ran towards Yilin and inquired about his injury. Yilin calmed them down and told them he was okay, but since they knew how crafty this man was, it was no leap of imagination that he would not make something out of this setback. Yilin's face hardened as he walked up to Yun Guanlu, swearing to never forget what just happened. Observing Yilin still being aggressive and even having the nerve to stare at him coldly, the corner of Yun Guanlu's lips curled into a smile. If the best scorer of Ching Xian was not satisfied, he could challenge him anytime he wanted. Anyway, if Yilin should go all out without any regard for consequences, then there is a big chance for him to beat Yun Guanlu and even kill him. But for now, there was too many crowds, so he will give it a pass. But Yun Guanlu should not make no error in his threat. He will surely have his revenge next time, one way or the other. Yun Guanlu, momentarily incredulous, began to laugh in pure contempt. Was Yilin threatening him seriously just then because he sure as hell didn't catch on? And speak of a loser, did he think that he would come to something worthwhile that was worthy of his attention? Or did he assume that because he assailed and spoke to him, he cared? Yilin should stop with his hollow threats because he could not defeat him in his lifetime. Yun Guanlu then went ahead and belittled Zhuge Ching Xian, which went past the bottom line of what Yilin could stand. This moron could insult him all he wanted, but insulting his teacher on his account, that's something he wouldn't let go. And because Yun Guanlu was so sure he couldn't defeat his smug ass, Yilin suggested a bet. He challenged Yun Guanlu to take his challenge in a life or death bout in a year's time. This shocked the crowd into silence. They had never imagined that Yilin would be so daredevil as to sign a deathmatch contract with Yun Guanlu, whose strength was already nearing 45. And it was not out of the question to estimate him breaking through to level 50, if not even to level 60, within a year's time. Zhuge Ching Xian, however, was not concerned that Yilin would lose but was actually concerned that he would inadvertently reveal the secret of his immortality. He cautioned him not to be hasty, but Yilin assured him that he wasn't. He was quite aware that Yun Guanlu, though pompous and infuriating, had the capability to back it up. But it would not matter in the end. Yun Guanlu accepted the challenge, but was equally dismissive about it. With the arrangement in place, Yilin nonchalantly left the stage. This death duel is to see who is superior, and he planned on using it to break the ego of the Supreme Academy. He even got an adrenaline kick just imagining how exciting it would be. As the head of Ching Ching Academy, Gao Zhenyu congratulated Yilin in person for being the top scorer. And before the applauding crowd, he thanked his pupil for finally taking his school to greater heights. Anyway, when the scene turned to Zhuge family's villa that same afternoon, Yilin asked about Zhuge Nini, inquiring if she was okay. Zhuge Ching Ching answered that she was. Her daughter was just sad because she lost to him, but she'll get over it in no time. Yilin then proceeded to the next glaring and somewhat intrusive question. He was eager to know how Zhuge Ching Ching and Su Ching Xian were related. Zhuge Ching Ching was prepared for this question, so he wasn't entirely surprised with this open secret. He mentioned that Su Ching Xian was his first love. Incidentally, Zhuge Nini was already going down the stairs when she overheard her father's revelation. She was truly shocked by this, and not only her, but Yilin too. The two having been in a romantic relationship was simply so strangely bizarre. Zhuge Ching Ching sighed and continued that it was a long story. When he was still a young man who had just entered the academy, he fell in love with Su Ching Xian and they began dating not long after. But eventually, they broke up because they were so different. Apparently, Su Ching Xian enjoys playing mind games kind of shit in relationships. And worst of all, she feels she is always right and what she did is absolutely justified. Anyway, 5 years after their separation, Su Ching Xian suddenly returned, declaring she could not forget Zhuge Ching Ching and wished to be reconciled. The two, particularly Zhuge Nini, were curious if they did. Zhuge Ching Ching coolly responded that it was even not possible for them to do so since by then he'd already enjoyed Zhuge Nini. That straight away shut them up. And Yilin, being the sensible guy he was, finally realized his situation, although it was a shame on his part. Zhuge Ching Ching felt somewhat regretful, really not expecting his love life to influence his disciples' destiny. Yilin's second best option then would be Daxia Academy. And as for Zhuge Nini, she was strong and talented enough to get into the Supreme Academy, so let's not worry about it too much and see if she can just do her best there. Yilin conformed to this evaluation because taking admission in Daxia Academy was not such a bad option, but his ideal next choice. With that arranged, Zhuge Ching Ching instructed the two to retire. The different admission officials would likely be waiting for them at school early the following morning. Yilin and Zhuge Nini followed Zhuge Qingqing's advice and had some much-needed rest, for the whole Qingqing Academy was buzzing the very next morning. And Principal Gao couldn't resist flaunting the two prodigies of his academy before the media. But the shocking thing was the arrival of the City Lord and the Supreme Academy Overseer. After saying hello, Su Qing Xian formally extended the invitation to Zhuge Nini to join the Supreme Academy. Zhuge Nini nodded in gratitude, then turned towards Yilin with a haughty expression. Internally, Zhuge Nini was thrilled to have finally outwitted Yilin. She cared not at all how ridiculously one-sided her victory was. Nevertheless, Principal Gao, still in euphoria, suddenly grabbed Yilin's shoulder and ushered him to the City Lord, Huang. He needed to collect his 5 million yuan reward. When he heard such a sum for a prize, Yilin was visibly shocked and hurried over to shake Huang's hand. Huang commended Yilin on his brilliant temperament as a top scorer. And the media were lapping all this hype up like it was a bonanza. Anyway, like the money-crazed hyena that he was, Yilin could not help but ask when he was to get his 5 million. And despite Huang assuring him that not one penny less would be provided for him, Yilin still told the media how he was afraid of remaining poor after many years of staying in the slums. So everyone should be a witness to his reward. But to his surprise, the 5 million was only one of the numerous rewards. There were even skill scrolls. Huang, being one of the representatives of Qingqing, not only made 5 million but also an epic-grade self-selection skill scroll for Yilin. And on that, a valuable admission qualification for the top scorer realm, which was the secret realm that only the top scorer of every city could enter. Yilin could no longer believe his luck at this juncture. Even though the epic-grade skill scroll was meaningless to him as a banned spellcaster, the acceptance to join the top scorer realm was like winning the jackpot. You see, this hidden realm was unique because it makes anyone immune to all damages once they're inside, and as such, the participants can just ignore everything else and concentrate on monster killing. Not that it's any great benefit for Yilin, but the concept of fighting any monster regardless of the level was an advantage he could use to increase his level up to 99 before departing. When Principal Gao heard this, he told Yilin that although the top scorer realm is not that exaggerated, the monsters within were restricted. But immunity to all damages were indeed appropriate for him. The City Lord then tells him that they have great expectations for him. Apparently, the highest scorer world was also an examination for Yilin to surpass. To score the first place would make him the country's top scorer. Yilin, not knowing that there is such a title at first, was assured by his principal that yes, there is such a title, the champion of Shao Nation. And if he gets the top level from the top scorer realm, then he would be the top scorer of the nation. Full of excitement and confidence in hell, Yilin assured everyone that rest assured, he'll surely become the top scorer of the nation. So with that, the three took a group picture to mark their city's top scorer of the year. After all was said and done, Zhuge Qingqing and his disciple took a stroll. When they were at last alone, he told Yilin of a pivotal detail he had to remember when he engaged in the top scorer domain. Zhuge Qingqing cautions Yilin never to use any of his lifespan devouring techniques within the top scorer's secret domain. But surprisingly enough, Yilin had already realized this a while back, and so he was well aware of this dilemma. And the reason behind this was that even though the secret domain provides immunity to injuries, it cannot hinder age growth. Zhuge Qingqing actually verified this judgment. Yilin was really a clever child. Zhuge Qingqing told Yilin that he has some other pressing matters to handle in Qingqing, so Yilin would need to be cautious himself. Also, he needs to get back to Qingqing the moment he exits the top scorer's secret world. Zhuge Qingqing was recently told that those scientists might soon discover the Gate of Apocalypse. Thanks to the teleportation array of the city, Yilin landed in the city of Qingqing without any problem. But when he walked through the streets of this metropolis, he couldn't help but wonder how different and yet fresh everything feels. This was the first time he was leaving the city of Qingqing, and it was a pity he didn't have time to sightsee. Yilin proceeded to the registration building to check in. There, the entry was guarded by a female receptionist named Bailin. After verifying Yilin's identity, Bailin directed him to come with her. Hu Wang had already prepared in advance. On the route, Yilin was told that the top scorer realm was not yet opened, so he could take some rest. In addition, if he has any issues while he is staying there, he can reach her anytime. Bailin took Yilin to a skyscraper building where he finished his registration and check-in formalities at the reception. A short while later, he found his room and collapsed onto his bed clutching his skill scroll. Since the highest scorer world hadn't been unlocked yet, he might as well just go and see what this city he had never been was like. But in the same instant, a loud noise and a series of muffled voices at the door came to his hearing. This guy, whoever he was continuing to whine behind the door on the other side about why it was so weird the keycard for the room didn't work. Yilin walked towards the door, guessing who was attempting to force himself into his room, or maybe the rooms were shared. He didn't even manage to say a word when the door was opened with a bang by someone forcing it, breaking the locks and shocking him. Then, a poor-looking little girl in a blue dress stood at the door. She had a teddy bear backpack on, and her blonde hair had two adorable bows tied on it. She blinked her wide eyes and looked at Eelin in confusion, asking whom he was and why he was in her room. Eelin was also left speechless. Shouldn't she be the one questioning him about all these? But after Eelin's stunned look, this little girl mistakenly thought of him as a pervert. She had even talked herself into it on the spot that Eelin was lurking in her room after she had targeted her as an easy target. Abruptly, her arms swelling with bulging veins, she hurled a punch Eelin's way. Eelin acted fast with his evasive dance, dodging to the side and barely avoiding this frightening punch. Just the whistling of wind from the opening was enough to make the windows shake. Shell-shocked Eelin was somewhat incredulous that this tiny loli had this kind of tremendous strength. He hastened to clarify that he was not a pervert, but the tiny loli will not believe it. She says that a pervert would not willingly say they were a pervert, and so Eelin was lying. At this moment, Eelin knew he has no other option but to act. He gave up his appendix and called forth the world of woods. In the tiny room, innumerable woody vines suddenly appeared and entwined themselves around the fist of the girl like tentacles. She exerted brute force to free herself, but the vines were so tenacious that all her efforts were in vain. You see, the falling of the wood world was a taboo spell which primarily confined violent movements, thus it took some time for Mishwe, the girl, to ultimately give in. Eelin then drew out his room card and exhibited it to her, but after noticing the coordinating number 6099, Mishwe couldn't help but exclaim it was not possible. Her room card was also 6099. Eelin broke the spell off her and insisted that she display her room card. Mishwe, though confused, proudly pulled out her room card from her bag and flashed it in front of Eelin, but to her surprise, the number on the card was 6609. By this time, it was clear that she turned the card upside down and misunderstood the number, so with the confusion cleared, Mishwe began apologizing harshly for behaving in such a manner. But Eelin was more concerned with reminding her not to forget to inform the staff to repair the door on her way out. Mishwe nodded in understanding but still refused of taking Eelin out for a meal as compensation. Eelin responded that there is no need. But since she's still being insistent, how about she join him for a stroll down the streets? And so while the two walked around the outside streets, Eelin found out Mishwe's name and what she did. She was a top scorer SSS class berserker, hence her unexpected explosive power. Mishwe was Heching's top scorer. Eelin then told her about being from Qingqing. And of course, he too was also a top scorer. Since Eelin succeeded in overpowering her with a shocking talent, Mishwe guessed Eelin had been accepted to the Supreme Academy. Learning of the Supreme Academy, Eelin simply outlined that that was where he originally intended to go to school, but, unfortunately, the academy turned him down. Mishwe's enthusiasm became bewilderment. She could not understand why. With the kind of power Eelin had just exhibited, entering should be a breeze. But Eelin shrugged his shoulders and said his destiny was sealed elsewhere. And to dispel her confusion, he said that he was a forbidden spellcaster. So having his short lifespan side effect of a kind, so it makes sense. Mishwe's eyes showed guilt at hearing this. A forbidden spellmaster had already had a short life. But not only did she unknowingly get him to cast a forbidden spell, but she broke down his door, confused him with a pervert, and attempted to beat him up. She really ought to apologize to him. And the first thing that they had to do was to stop talking about all such gloomy things. Mishwe pulled Eelin's hand and dragged him along. She'd heard there was a place around there that had fantastic food. It was Xinjiang's best restaurant. A long-standing institution with fantastic view and top-class service. Eelin took a good look around and was impressed. The place indeed looks fantastic. But just as the two were about to sit down at some place, somebody suddenly called out to Mishwe and callously commented on how a brute like her was able to find a fellow to dine with. Mishwe's face immediately clouded the moment she turned around and spotted Yi Ning Ning, her half-sister. Yi Ning Ning was wearing a black revealing strap dress, high heels clattering on the ground as she approached them. Standing next to her was his boyfriend. Yi Ning Ning teases her half-sister for being finally in a mating season and yet having nothing to gain. Therefore, she asked herself what is Eelin's thing with her anyway. Mishwe, clearly agitated, cautioned her half-sister that she had no desire to fight her. Her worry, though, was put to rest when Yi Ning Ning tells Eelin that she might be able to introduce him to some of her pretty friends. But only if Eelin accompanies her immediately. Eelin told the nosy bitch to keep her nose out of his personal space since she had a really horrible bad breath. Mishwe restrained herself from laughing at this, while her half-sister continued repeating the words she just heard in a haze. Fuming with anger, Yi Ning Ning was unable to believe the sheer temerity of someone she thought of as a nobody to shame her in such a manner. Passing by Yi Ning Ning, Eelin proposed that they go eat somewhere else, somewhere that was not suddenly smelly as in the place they were currently in. Mishue consented in sheer joy, but before the two could go further, a figure stood in front of them. Wu Shaoqi, infuriated, proclaimed that the two didn't have his leave to go. The level 22 Angel Paladin ordered them to apologize to his woman, making sure to mention that he despised bad losers from small cities the most. Yilin may be treated like a treasure there, but in Xinqiang City, he was nothing but trash. In any case, as Ning encouraged her man to teach them a lesson, Mishue, clearly anxious, confesses that they could not possibly match Wu Shaoqi. Yilin waved this aside, pointing out how much of an accident this whole farce was, since he also happened to detest rich punks like Wu Shaoqi who stink just as much. Wu Shaoqi's aura abruptly concentrated, and an intense pressure radiated from him, filling the whole restaurant immediately. At his back, a glorious angelic body slowly coalesced into form, surrounded by sacred aura. Yilin then moved his hand up slightly, concentrating lightning arcs around him. He made it clear that he intended to battle Wu Shaoqi. Everyone became stiffened as a crowd formed immediately to view the spectacle. The two were seconds from exchanging blows, when an investigator reminded them that career switchers weren't permitted to fight in the city, and offenders would be charged 30,000 yuan and held for 30 days. With the top scorer kingdom mere hours away from opening, Mishue rationalized with Yilin that battling Wu Shaoqi wasn't worth it. Yilin complied, and Wu Shaoqi did likewise, warning Yilin as he exits. Yilin had better not run into him within the upper scorer realm. While he might not be able to kill him in there, he damn well can give him a fate worse than death. Very satisfied, Ning wore a self-satisfied look on her face as Wu Shaoqi escorted her out of the restaurant. The moment the two were out of earshot, Mishue releases a deep sigh and apologized for the inconvenience. Yilin finally asked what Ning's name was and why she was so opposed to her. He discovered that she's Mishue's half-sister, to her stepmother, and has always been competing with her at every level in everything, and she means everything. Career stage, proficiency, gear, appearance, figure, you name it. She even feared being surpassed by Mishue in the final exam, so she insisted on being relocated to a lesser city. There, she bumped into Wu Shaoqi for unknown reasons, and has since been behaving arrogantly. Down, Mishue repeated her apology. She had only wanted to pay Yilin back by taking him out for a meal, but had ended up getting him into trouble instead. Yilin comforted her that it didn't matter. He even gets a little peckish suddenly, so they should just sit somewhere and eat. Mishue was surprised in turn that they were still going to be eating there after what had occurred, but Yilin reminded the little loli that she was the one who had brought it up, so why should these two idiots throw off their appetite? Early the following day, all the high scorers throughout the whole province convened at a huge square close to the edge of Xinqiang City. There, an huge red gate some 40 feet towered over everything, and the whole event was being watched with dozens of drones. On the platform, there was a middle-aged man who identified himself as Jinken Shi, the top scorer realm supervisor this year, which was about to open. Jinken Shi greeted and encouraged all of them to prepare themselves. Somewhere in the crowd was Yilin and Mishue, who were occupied with a last-minute inspection. Yilin rummaged through his backpack and found it packed with so much food. When she questioned Mishue, she said that since they would be inside the secret realm for a couple of days, she just packed all the food that they would need in case of emergencies. Back to Jinken Shi, he told them simply that prior to the official opening of the secret realm, there were some things he needed to tell them. The second thing was the governance of this secret world. While all test takers would be shielded from damages, this protection existed only within the secret world. If any test takers receive ongoing or fatal damages, they should not forget to stay within the secret world. They had equipped priests beyond level 50 to heal anyone unlucky at the exit, so they should be healed before leaving the secret world. Otherwise, the effects will be extreme. The second was in case any of them lose a limb or leg, they should carry it with them if possible. Then look for a priest to reattach it before leaving. This was much better and easier than discovering how to regrow a new arm or leg. The third one was to keep in mind that one must not get eaten by a demonic beast. Because getting their torso digested was not a good sensation to experience. Just the thought was gruesome. And the thought of it was very painfully scary to contemplate. But from this information, Yilin concluded that their body would simply be immune to all damages suffered within the secret realm, not clogging it. Jinken Shi then wished all the high achievers to return safely with good grades. He ordered the teleportation portal to be opened. And also, everyone had 10 minutes to join a team or locate their teammates. But if anyone had the guts to come in by themselves, there are no restrictions on it. Mishue suggested working in a team with Yilin. Yilin consented to the collaboration, but she had to carry his bag around. The little loli didn't mind this arrangement. After all, such light was nothing to her as a berserker. A man around saw this scene and blamed Yilin for being ungentlemanly. Why was Yilin asking a cute little girl to take a heavy load for him? He then proposed to team up with Mishue. With him, she definitely will not be doing household chores. Mi Shui then shocked him with her swelled fist and asked the idiot what he's worth was to even offer a team up. He should get out before she pounded him into a pulp. In the vicinity, Wu Shaoqi confidently displayed his profession and level as Yiningning declared that they were taking job changers of level 20 and above. So anyone who wishes to survive should go join them. They soon catch sight of Yilin and Mi Shui and made their way over with minions in tow. Within earshot, Wu Shaoqi told Yilin that he had him checked out. And he has to admit, it's not often that a career changer will make it to level 18 from a little county town like Qingqing. But a redneck will always be a redneck because he will never be able to get any higher. Wu Shaoqi gave Yilin a last opportunity to bow down and kowtow in front of him 3 times. Then only he will pardon him for what happened yesterday. Otherwise, when they go into the secret realm, who knows what could happen. Yilin simply laughed and more or less told the idiot to fuck off. Angered, Wu Shaoqi was going to throw hands when Zinkinki suddenly appeared out of nowhere and stepped in. He cautioned Wu Shaoqi that they were not in the Wu family. Therefore, if he dares to cause any kind of trouble, his examination qualification will be taken back immediately.